Well, happy Wednesday, Jocks Nation. Landrum Roberts, Conrad Van Order, Molly Robinson, Pat Smith. If you've listened to the show, he is performing his annual Pat Smith prank day here at the office. So he goes around to different people's offices and he pulls what he feels are funny pranks.
Yeah, the bucket of anchovies that fell on me when I opened the office door this morning, that was a little over the top, I thought.
Yep. Saran wrap on the toilet.
Yeah, that one, the splashback, that'll always get you.
Yeah. So I'm undoing a salt shaker in the break room.
That's bad luck. That's just bad luck for everybody.
Somebody will get that in about an hour and a half. Or that one person that likes to eat up here at 10:30. We hope you're doing well here on this Wednesdays. We're going to be hanging out. We got a lot to talk about. Let's start first with what happened in College Station, Texas last night. Conrad, as we previewed the game yesterday with Nathan King, he said this is obviously a dangerous game for Auburn. And historically, it has been a dangerous game for Bruce Pearl. That continues last night. Texas A&M beats Auburn 83-72. Janai Broome, 8 points. Dylan Cardwell, 8 points. Chaney Johnson, 4 points. That's just where we start. But you knew that they were going to have to get their bigs and get productive minutes and scoring inside, Conrad. And for whatever reason, last night it was Texas A&M. They seemed to have all the answers, and Auburn seemed to be a tick or two off.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple things you can look at from the game last night. Obviously, we talked about it yesterday, but going in, Bruce Pearl 2-5 against Buzz Williams as the Texas A&M head coach. So this has kind of been their, that obstacle that they've just kind of struggled with here over the last handful of years. And so going into the game, you knew that the style that Texas A&M plays clearly has been problematic for Bruce Pearl in the way that his offense runs at times. And that was the case last night. We spent a lot of time talking about the offensive rebounding for Texas A&M and how good they were. In that regard, they had 24 offensive rebounds last night. Auburn had 25 total rebounds.
25 total, actually, for Texas A&M.
Yes.
Don't short them that one extra rebound.
Yeah, sorry. But it's just it's incredible what they were able to do. And when you look at causing Auburn to turn the ball over 13 times, which is a little uncharacteristic of them. Texas A&M, they scored 83 points last night, 47 of those points either via the turnover or second chance points on the offensive glass. And that kind of, I think, tells the tale for you. And on top of that, you clearly missed Denver Jones if you're Auburn, and Janai Broome now back-to-back games in single digits. And, that's not what you expect to get from the National Player of the Year candidate, even though he did seem to hurt his shoulder early in that game last night.
You mentioned it, without Denver Jones not having that production and some of the outside shooting you get, but more even than that, how he defends. And especially he can defend. A lot of times he'll draw the matchup of one of the best scorers on the other side. He would have been on Wade Taylor last night. Miles Kelly, 1 for 8 from the field, 0 for 4 from outside. He was able to make a little bit of a living at the free throw line. Baker Mazzara, thought he was solid, but Pettiford, he did what you needed him to do in starting a game. He was a little bit lackadaisical with the ball at times.
He looked like a freshman.
You get that. But, yeah, Auburn, they just – the best analogy I had was for our college football fans. Mm-hmm. Auburn could not get Texas A&M off the field on third down last night.
Yeah, no, I think that's a pretty good way to look at it. And I mean, it was a game where Auburn, Texas A&M came out and was shooting the lights out of the gym there early on. They settled back to the mean of kind of what you would expect for them. But that's what they needed. They needed that big jolt. It was an emotional game for them. They put Wade Taylor's jersey up in the rafters at the beginning of the game. And so you just knew that it was a great crowd. It sounded pretty lively on television. You could tell that they were really, really getting into it there. And maybe that's part of, some of the problems you saw from a guy like Pettiford. He did lead you in scoring. He made 6 3-pointers last night, and that's great. But he does have 3 turnovers, just like Baker Mazzara. And there were times defensively, like you were saying, he's just not Denver Jones. And that's such a strong point of Denver Jones' game. And that was a problem for Auburn last night.
Well, for Texas A&M to knock down 9 threes, and they have been statistically the worst.
Yes.
For them to shoot over 40% from the field, they had to have that kind of night. And still with Auburn, with either the not having Denver Jones, and I'm not taking anything away from Texas A&M, but as poorly as this team played in comparison to how we have seen them play for 99.9% of the season, say that to only lose by that number in Bryan College Station actually probably says more than we're thinking today.
Yeah, and again, not taking anything away from Texas A&M, but I don't think this is the biggest surprise in the world, right? You came off an emotional win over the weekend. You get to clinch the SEC championship. It was a great moment. You get your first win in Rupp Arena in 37 years. Alabama loses in dramatic fashion to help you clinch the SEC regular season title. You're now having to turn around, go on the road against a good team. You have another matchup with Alabama on the horizon on Saturday. You're out. You're starting point guard and one of your best defenders, Janai Broom's banged up. There's just so many things that went into the game where you look at that and you go, yeah, I could see where Auburn maybe came out a little flat. Now, that's not going to satisfy Bruce Pearl. I would imagine practice the next couple of days for them is not going to be particularly fun. But, last night was a game, yeah, you would have loved to win it. I didn't walk away from that performance from Auburn and going, oh, man, I have some concerns about this team moving forward into the postseason. I think it was just if there's a lot of teams that after you clinch your conference championship, you're probably not going to come out with the same, you're not going to have your foot on the gas quite the same.
Whether it's consciously or subconsciously.
Yes.
Bruce Pearl, in a game that you heard right here on Jocks 94.5 with the Auburn Network. After the game, this is what he had to say on the loss in College Station.
Congratulate Coach Williams and Texas A&M. It's been a tough matchup for us. Been a tough matchup for me. Buzz does a great job, and systems do match up with each other, and the things that they do bother us a little bit. They do a great job of driving downhill. They do a great job, one-on-one attacking closeouts. They do a great job one-on-one in the post and attacking, and they just physically dominated us. You look at the boards. They get 24 offensive rebounds. We get 16 defensive rebounds. They physically manhandled us, and if this team is going to continue to win, we're going to run up against teams like Texas A&M or like Florida or like Duke that are big and physical. And now, earlier in the year, we beat Houston, we beat Iowa State. Those teams were also pretty physical, but Texas A&M's physicality obviously dominated the game tonight.
Yeah, so Bruce Pearl summing it up, and yeah, system on system, this system that Buzz runs. And I thought that Jimmy Dykes did a really good job on the broadcast of explaining how Texas A&M makes things difficult, especially for Auburn, and how they run their offense instead of an inside-out type of game where they'll kick it out when they go inside occasionally. They'll work more just on the outside, on the perimeter, and how Texas A&M will send their defenders out to try to force you to make that lollipop-type pass that we saw from Chad Baker-Mazar last night that was perfectly executed, but you're taking your chances if you're Texas A&M defensively. You're going to knock more of those balls away with denial defense, and they did last night.
Yeah, no, and I thought Jimmy Dykes did a really good job of explaining that on the call of, essentially like you were saying, how Auburn likes to run their offense from the outside in as opposed to the inside out, which is what you kind of need to beat Texas A&M. That's the kind of thing where, I think if you're Auburn, obviously it gives you something to go back on tape and say, all right, if we come across a team that's going to play us like this, how are we going to handle it and adjust in the postseason? Because you're going to have to play a physical team, right? If Auburn is going to make a Final Four or a national championship run like a lot of people are expecting them to, you're going to have matchups like that. You're going to have games like that. Now, I'm sure you're, crossing your fingers. You're not going to run into Texas A&M either in Nashville or in the NCAA tournament, but there are other teams that, as Bruce Pearl said, you've won some of those games and you've lost some of those games. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to have something to kind of go back to the drawing board and something to continue to motivate your team of, hey, we may have been the best team in the country for essentially the entire year, but that doesn't mean that we're invulnerable. And, I would expect that on Saturday in Neville, granted, still, you've already clinched the SEC regular season title. I think regardless of what happens the rest of the way, Auburn's going to be the number one overall seed in the tournament. But you have your biggest rival coming in. They have revenge on their mind. I think you're going to see a much livelier Auburn team on Saturday, and especially if Denver Jones is able to come back, because we remember how excellent he was in that first matchup and how he was able to lock down Mark Sears for a lot of that game. And that's something that's going to be pivotal for Auburn coming up on Saturday in the IBOB.
Also, last night in the SEC, it was Kentucky handling their business versus LSU, 95-64. Kentucky with 12 made threes. They took 32, but also 11 of 11, perfect at the free throw stripe. Texas and Mississippi State in Starkville. Texas gets an overtime win, 87-82. That makes things a little more interesting when it comes to bracketology, seeding, all of that good stuff for the likes of, who am I thinking about? Jerry Palm and Joe Lenardi.
Yeah,
our buddy Rocco.
Yeah, I mean, as we go down, the slate from last night, essentially every team that needed a win to increase their chances or better their resume for the tournament, that's kind of on that bubble, they got the wins that they needed. But yeah, I mean, for Texas to be able to go and knock off a Mississippi State team that's still ranked in the top 25 on the road, that's impressive stuff. That'll certainly help you. That'll certainly help you out.
Georgia didn't hurt themselves. They knock off South Carolina 73-64. So after Georgia's big win over Florida, more of that momentum continuing to trend in the camp that Mike White gets the Bulldogs to the postseason tournament.
Yeah, and a couple of days ago, Lenardi has essentially said, Georgia, they split these last two games. If they can just win one of them, they're going to be in the tournament. So you would assume with that win over South Carolina last night that they have stamped their ticket to the NCAA tournament. Which is, just a remarkable job that Mike White's done with that program, especially when they hit that skid a couple of weeks ago to be able to bounce back, like you said, and get that big win over Florida. And then we had the late game that we stayed up and FaceTimed each other for, Landrum, and that was the Arkansas-Vanderbilt game. Arkansas knocks off Vandy 90-77. And, I mean, early on in this one, it looked like Vanderbilt they were going to kind of take care of their business, and maybe Arkansas was going to come up short yet again, and then they absolutely flipped a switch, and Arkansas said, see you later. And then they took that game over. And what you got from Trevor Brazile last night for Arkansas, he was spectacular.
He was. And John L. Davis, one-time FAU transfer, he had 21 points to lead the Razorbacks in scoring. Arkansas, just a tough team to figure out, but Arkansas moves to 18-12 overall, 7-10 in conference play. Vanderbilt, meanwhile, they fall to 20-10 overall, 8-9 in SEC play. We got plenty to talk about with a big game coming up at 6 o'clock tonight inside of Coleman Coliseum. The Alabama Crimson Tide hosting Florida Gators. What's Vegas saying? We'll discuss it. We'll get your thoughts as well. It's three-man front here on this Wednesday on Jocks 94.5. 10-16, three-man front. Landrum, Conrad, and Molly. Pat is here somewhere. He's back with us tomorrow. This is my first time I've had an opportunity to give a Brave spring training update. The Braves, they lose yesterday, Conrad, 6-3. Or excuse me, they're now 6-3. They lost to the Tampa Bay Rays.
Y'all clobbered us the other night.
Yeah, we did. We take on the Marlins today. 5:05 Central Standard Time. Good old spring training.
It's right around the corner. Not going to be that long until
it's right around the
opening
corner.
day.
Spring training's here.
No, sorry. I mean opening day, the start of the regular season.
You feeling good about your pinstripes?
Yeah, I had some injury problems already.
The beard's causing problems?
No, maybe that's it. Maybe it's that extra weight. These guys just aren't limber
Even
enough.
though they passed the rule, do the players, are they really trusting Steinbrenner? Where it's like, he says that we can grow the beard, but maybe we shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess we haven't had enough time for anybody to grow a full-on beard yet. So we'll see once we get into, the middle of the season who's growing out the facial hair. And
Grant Nelson would never have to worry about it.
No, he would fit right in there in the pinstripes. We could
grow that thing as long as he has days on this earth.
Yeah, if he can give us about a 750 OPS, I'll sign him right now. I'll take that.
Speaking of Alabama, we're going to get into Alabama and Florida. We've got Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider, is going to be joining us at 10:45. Give us his thoughts on the game. But I want to tell you about our friends at Stark Exterminators. This spring, unfortunately, termites, they cause $5 billion, $5 billion with a B, in property damage every single year here in the United States. And startling, it's not covered, most of it, by your insurance, which is crazy and just a kick in the gut if this happens to you. Well, protect yourself, protect your home, protect your place of business with our friends at Stark Exterminators. Stark Exterminators, the Centricon system, they installed it outside of our home. We've had no complaints when it comes to whether it's termites, whether it's roaches, flying insects, pests. Warmer weather brings those things. There's no way around it here in the state of Alabama, but you can protect your home. Come up with a tailor-made system for friends at Stark Exterminators. StarkExterminators.com. 855-STARK now is the number, and make sure you tell them Landrum from Jocks 94.5 sent you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, no, tonight, like you said, Landrum, you do have Alabama and Florida. That game's going to tip off at 6 o'clock. It is senior night for Alabama, so a big opportunity for them trying to get back to the 1 seed line. But we do have a lot of reaction we're expecting today on Auburn. How are you feeling after the Auburn loss? Has it changed your opinions on the Auburn Tigers and what your expectations are for them in the postseason? And that kind of leads us into our three-man front Twitter poll question of the day, Molly, which has to do with Auburn coming off the loss to Texas A&M.
Yeah, so today on our three-man front Twitter poll, we ask you, does last night's Auburn loss concern you about the Tigers moving forward? Simple yes or no question. And right now, no is winning with about 76%, 24% voting yes.
Yeah, and people that want to think ahead, you think about Alabama, the run they went on in the NCAA tournament and how they ended their regular season, how they ended their SEC tournament and getting steamrolled by Florida. Look at what they did. You go back to UConn last year, that championship team, February 20th, they lost by almost 20 points to an opponent.
I think it was Creighton, yeah.
Not saying that, but I'm just trying to put this in historical perspective for people who don't remember or have not been paying attention until this year about one of these considered top-line teams. And maybe it does mean that Auburn's about to hit a stretch where they're not playing good basketball. Hard to imagine that, though. With all the circumstances going into the game, knowing that you've clinched a regular season title, you're without Denver Jones, you're going in, and not saying that they mailed it in, but I can see where they weren't 100% last night.
Well, it kind of set up as a perfect storm, right? You're going up, again, everything we mentioned about clinching the SEC. Maybe you're looking ahead a little bit to Alabama with that game on the horizon. You know what's coming up with the postseason play, but you're coming off an emotional weekend. You're having, only a couple of days to turn around and get ready for this matchup, and you're going up against the team and the coach that seems to kind of have Bruce Pearl's number, right? So if there was ever a situation for Auburn, if they came out a little flat like they did last night to get caught, it wasn't that big of a surprise to me. Now, granted, there were times where Auburn started to shrink the gap a little bit, and you felt, okay, this is where they're going to go on their run, and Texas A&M kind of got cold offensively a little bit at times, and you thought, okay, we're about to see that run. But Auburn never able to quite close that gap, hit the shot they needed to make it a one possession game late. And, that's a credit to Texas A&M. But again, I mean, how many teams in the country playing this schedule, going through the gauntlet of not only the SEC, but the Dukes, the Houstons, the Iowa States, all of these elite teams that Auburn's played this year, and you finally get a chance to come up for air and say, wow, look at everything we've accomplished. Now we have to go on the road and play the guy that has our number. You can kind of see where that adds up to being a difficult situation for Auburn. And I would say, who knows? Maybe they'll meet each other again, either in the SEC or NCAA tournament, and the result will be the same. But I certainly think this can be used as a positive moving forward for Auburn as, all right, we're going to have to play some physical basketball. What are some things that we can do differently than the game against A&M or the game against Florida to make sure this doesn't happen in March?
Speaking of Florida, how physical will that ball game be tonight? We know that the tempo, the transition defense, that's going to be a key. Alabama likes to get up and down. Florida does as well. Alabama head coach Nate Oates previewing tonight's matchup in Tuscaloosa.
They're good. I mean, they've got 3 really good guards, and, they're averaging 17, 15, and 14. It's a lot from your starting backcourt, led by Clayton. Interesting enough, they're all kind of mid-transfers that transferred up. They've done a good job in the portal, but their front court's deep, and they're good as well. And, they don't score at the same clip as their guards do, but they rebound it well. They make a lot of winning plays. They just keep coming at you. They got all kinds of them. They've got 2 bigs off the bench that would start for 90%, 95% of all their high major programs. So their depth in the front court's, strong, and we're going to have to use some of our depth. We're going to need Aiden Sherrill to play really well. Thought he's had 2 good days of practice. I think, Diabate's played well in practice. Jaron's looked good. So, we'll be ready to go, and it'll be a good game. Be good for our seniors. Hopefully our crowd shows up, supports these seniors like they deserve to be supported.
You look at this Florida-Alabama series. Alabama leads the all-time series, 79 wins to 72 losses. The last time they matched up, it was in Nashville in the SEC tournament last year, with Florida winning that game 102-88. Prior to that, just a week or 2 earlier, they knocked off Alabama, and you remember this, most Alabama fans did. Nothing went right that night.
Yeah,
and everything Florida threw up went in 105-87. 5-5, though, the record in the last 10 matchups between these two programs. Walter Clayton Jr. tonight versus Mark Sears. That is going to be epic. Walter Clayton Jr., guard for the Florida Gators, averaging 17 points a game. Mark Sears, 19 points a game, 4 assists per game, and 5 assists respectively for those two. This is going to be good. Now, the key for me is can Alabama do a better job of not giving Florida some of the open looks from 3 that have played the Tide at times this season?
Yeah, certainly going to have one of the better defensive efforts that you've gotten over the course of the season. I mean, Vegas is telling you right now, I mean, the point total I'm looking at here is 178. So they're letting you know, hey, we think
178.5.
178.5. So yeah, they think this is going to be a very high scoring game. I think we all expect that to a certain degree, but I think we all expect Clayton and Sears are kind of going to get their own, right? It's going to be, all right, can one guy lock down the other on the defensive end a little more and give your team an advantage there? But I think, you heard Nate Oates mention Sherrill and some of these guys that are going to have to they're going to have to put in some work down low for Alabama. And, that adds in Cliff and Grant Nelson. And I mean, what a time this would be for Grant Nelson to start to show the form that we saw last year in the NCAA tournament, or like we saw earlier this year in the first game when they went on the road to Kentucky, and he took over that game for Alabama and was a big part of why they got that win in Rupp Arena. Tonight would certainly be a good night for that. We do know Darion Reed, he's still going to be out. He hasn't played in about 3 weeks now. So we know that Nate Oates announced he is not going to play tonight. So that, hurts you a little bit if you're Alabama as well. But this is a big opportunity here.
Don't know if I expect Darion Reed back anytime soon.
No, I do not either. Unfortunately, that'd be nice, a nice treat. But also with how much time he's missed, getting him back acclimated in the middle of an NCAA tournament would probably be pretty difficult. But if you're Alabama, I still think if you win this game, you are at least putting yourself at the forefront of the conversation to where, okay, maybe if you don't make it to the 1 seed, you're without a doubt the top number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. And conversely for Florida, a win here maybe is something that can help vault you up if one of the other teams drops a game, a Tennessee or a Houston here late. But this is a game you need if you're Alabama, because if you win this game, you also lock up the double bye in Nashville, and we know how important that is.
And that's what I was going to go to. Forget about the national seeding. That'd be great to get a number 1 overall seed. Number 2, you're kind of splitting hairs there, but for Alabama to get that double bye, to not have to play until later on next week in Nashville at the SEC tournament, that is going to be huge. You don't want to be adding an extra game at this point in the season. Alabama, they don't have anything that they're going to be able to improve their resume on there in Nashville. But you want to be playing some of your best basketball, and I'm sure that's what the plan is for Nate Oates. That's the plan for Todd Golden of Florida.
Yeah, and if you get the double bye like we're talking about, you're going to get 5 days. I know with travel it may messes up, but 4 or 5 days of rest between the end of the regular season on Saturday and what's coming up for you in Nashville, and so that could be absolutely key for Alabama and for a lot of these teams. I think Auburn's in a similar boat where, I think they're still playing good basketball. I know last night wasn't their best performance, but you don't think Janai Broome wants to rest the ankle on that shoulder a little bit. They'd like to give Denver Jones a few days to be able to come back from this little injury that he's dealing with. So there's a lot of teams that can benefit for that. And if you're Alabama, that's what's on the line tonight, as well as you're honoring your seniors post game. So probably want to win this one if you're doing senior night after the game. Don't want to be don't know how many people are going to be there supporting it if you drop this one to Florida tonight.
I think Brian Edwards, who's going to be joining us at 10:45, he's got an angle on this game. We'll talk to the voice of the Tide, Chris Stewart, about tonight's matchup coming up at 11 o'clock, presented by Craneworks. We'll get to your phone calls and your text as well. Your thoughts on tonight's Alabama-Florida matchup inside of Coleman Coliseum. What does a win mean for Nate Oates and the Tide? If you want to react to last night's loss of the Auburn Tigers to the Texas A&M Aggies, a part of our Twitter poll question of the day. Does this change your opinion of Auburn moving forward? You can vote at the number 3 man front. Landrum, Conrad, and Molly on this Wednesday. Glad you're with us on Jocks 94.5. Little rain, little wind last night. Woo.
Little.
Everybody's doing well. Everybody stayed safe. Not all power stayed on, according to Molly Robinson.
Well, yeah. Or lost power for about 6 hours, but
Did you have a seance? Did you
No.
light candles?
I had a candle lit, yeah.
You did have a candle?
Mhm.
I'm just proud that you had a candle handy and a lighter.
I had two, actually, two candles. One in my kitchen and one in my living room.
There you go.
She's growing up right in front of our very eyes.
It was a little scary, though. I'm not going to lie. I kind of felt like I was in a horror movie for a while
Well,
there.
you know you have a flashlight on your phone.
No, I used that too.
Oh, I bet
and
you
I
did.
used my laptop. I didn't have internet, but I used it for light.
Well, and did the
That's great.
wind, because I don't know about y'all, but at least at my house, I had some debris and stuff in my yard this morning, but just the winds, like there was definitely a moment last night where Paige and I were sitting there going, I hope these winds or these windows don't smash in because the
Yeah.
wind was that crazy over
had to
there
take-
in
Yeah, no.
Cahaba
I had to
Heights.
take the American flag out of the holster on the front
Oh,
porch.
yeah, because you didn't
Yeah.
want it to blow out. Yeah,
No.
that's smart.
Well, we still have a lot of flu and sickness hanging around too, so make your home healthier with Trane's Clean Effects Home Air Cleaner. It removes up to 99.9% of airborne particles, including those that cause virus, is 100 times more effective than standard air filters and 8 times more effective than HEPA room filters. So go find a dealer near you at Trane.com.
All right, who's fired up for the game tonight? Alabama in Florida. Alabama's 3.5-point favorite. The over-under is at 178.5. Number 7, Alabama. Number 5, Florida. I feel like we're getting fatigued, though, with our basketball fans in the state. Like, we're a little bit spoiled. We've seen so many good matchups so far this season with the SEC being so strong, top to bottom, and then you add on the non-conference schedules we got around the holidays. I feel like this is just another notch in the belt.
Business as usual, right? Just another casual Wednesday night, top 10 matchup in college basketball right here in the SEC. We have been very fortunate this year. It'll be, and again, looking ahead just to next year, it'll be very interesting to see how these programs look next year because there's going to be a lot of turnover for them. But at least right now, while we're here with the last couple of games of the regular season, Auburn, 1 game left, Alabama, Florida, and Auburn left to go. We've been so fortunate. I'm just so excited to see how it all plays out in the NCAA tournament because we have such high expectations, and I just hope that we're able to meet those once we get there and we're not looking at a Sweet 16 with 3 SEC teams in there. And we're just kind of scratching our heads like, man, did they just all run out of gas at the end of the season?
So you brought that up. If we asked Auburn fans, what are your expectations for this team? You asked Alabama fans, what are your expectations for this team? Would we get the same answers if we went consensus
from
with
both fan bases?
Fan bases, yeah.
I think so. I think. Yeah, I still think so. I think certainly for Auburn, the expectation is Final Four. And again, and maybe that's unfair. I know we've talked about that because getting to a Final Four is truly one of the most difficult things you could do in sports.
It is unfair, but I feel like this team and some of the benchmarks they've hit this season,
Yes.
I feel like it's unfairly fair.
No, I think that's actually a perfect way to describe it. And I think similarly for Alabama, I think a lot of people look at last year and they go, I mean, if that team made it to a Final Four, why can't this team make it to a Final Four? Because this team's certainly better than last year's team. And so, yeah, I still think that that's the expectation. I think that should be the expectation. These are still clearly two of the top, 5, 6 teams in all of college basketball. But they're going to have to prove it in March.
What result tonight would give Alabama, but obviously a 30-point blowout loss at home?
That'd be
one.
bad.
But what changes maybe the mindset drastically, either in a positive or negative way for Alabama with the result tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of what you were saying there, either you lose by 20, that's going to be bad. You win by 20, maybe that raises expectations too high at that point to a certain degree. But no, I think if you lose this game, if it's a close game and you lose, you're going to look at it as, okay, this is just a brutal part of the schedule. It is what it is. Hopefully we don't have to face the team again in the NCAA tournament, but if we do, hopefully it goes better. And maybe if it's a performance like, when you lost to Auburn the first time, I know that stung for a lot of people and it's not the ideal outcome if you're an Alabama fan, but you could look back at that game and go, okay, this was the number 1 team in the country. We had one of our worst offensive performances of the entire season, and yet we still found ourselves in a competitive basketball game with opportunities to win if we had just hit another shot here, another shot there over the course of 40 minutes. if that's how you walk away from Florida, I think that's a sign of a good competitive game and the understanding that this is just a brutally tough league. Now, if you do start to get to the point where, let's say you're turning the ball over a lot, Mark Sears isn't having a good shooting performance, that's when I think you're going to start to get some of these concerns of, okay, so the issues that we've seen from Alabama flare up at times, well, here they are again at the end of the season. And I think at this point, it's just, even though you lost to Tennessee in dramatic fashion, and that was a brutal way to lose a game, I thought Alabama played fairly well in that basketball game, right? They were the better team for 39 and a half minutes, in my opinion. So it's just continuing to show that you're headed in the right direction. At least for me as an Alabama fan, that's what I'm looking for tonight. And a win would certainly be great. It'll give you confidence.
Going back to expectations, Bet Online right now, odds to reach the Final Four. Auburn is your odds-on favorite at -160. Duke comes in next at -150, followed by Houston at +160, Florida at +165. Alabama comes in at +240, and then Tennessee at +260. So Alabama right now with the fifth best odds of anyone in the country to make the Final Four. Auburn being number one, then you have Florida and also Tennessee represented.
Yeah, and that's not, I don't think that's necessarily a huge shock there. And I certainly think that, when we're talking about making it to a Final Four, obviously making it to a Final Four is significantly difficult, but making it even past that and winning a national championship's even tougher. But I would think that's the way that it would be. So I'm looking at some numbers here because I was just curious if there was somebody that had a breakdown of, I guess the odds of how far you can make it in the tournament based on what seed you are when you go into the tournament.
Yeah.
And so right here, I'm trying to see how long ago or how much of this data this factors in, but this breakdown that I have right here in front of me, based on seeding, if you are a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, your chances of making it to the Final Four are 39.5%. If you are a 2 seed, it is 21.1%. Your odds of making it to the national championship game as a 1 seed, 24.3%, 8.6% if you're a 2 seed. So that kind of just helps you highlight. Again, do I think that if Alabama is a 2 seed over a 1 seed, it's the biggest deal in the world? No, not necessarily. But that's just kind of a breakdown for you of how being a 1 seed does mean something, and it's very important. And if you can put yourself in a position to get one of those 4 1 seeds, clearly based on the history of the tournament, you're going to be set up much better.
Other games coming up tonight in the SEC, besides Alabama hosting Florida, you've got number 15 Missouri at Oklahoma, 7 o'clock there from Lloyd Noble Center in Norman. You'll get that on the SEC Network. Then at 8 o'clock on ESPN2, number 4 Tennessee travels to Oxford, the Pavilion, to take on the Ole Miss Rebels. What a big win that would be for Ole Miss and for Chris Beard as they continue to try to improve their tournament resume. They're in the tournament, but the question is, can they improve their seeding? And you would think that would conversely hurt Tennessee as far as vying for a 1 seed. And then what could that do potentially for Ole Miss, and what line do they fall on?
I was about saying, if you're an Alabama fan, you're certainly rooting for Tennessee to lose tonight, because that can potentially help you get back up to the 1 seed line as well.
Does this Alabama team, I want to go back to just expectations and how tough it is to win a championship, but does this Alabama team, roster-wise, makeup-wise, even eye test, if you factor that in, Conrad, their whole body of work to this point, does this strike you as a team that could win it all?
Yeah, I certainly think they can win it all. I wouldn't say that they're the favorite to win it all right now, certainly, but I think when you look at, again, going back to a team like last year, right, when it all came together,
by the way,
and
I
it started
agree
to
with
click
you.
for them. Yeah,
I agree with you. I'm wondering with a little bit of this slide here in the late season, where, not that you speak for all Alabama fans, but where Alabama fans are on this.
No, I mean, I think you can, if you've watched every game this year, you certainly are going to have things that you can look at and say, okay, that's a weak spot for Alabama. They do turn the ball over too much. They don't play great defensively. When they have a bad shooting night, things aren't going to go well for them. You could say that about a lot of teams, though. And I guess that's kind of my point about Alabama is any team that's going to go to a Final Four, any team that's going to play and win a national championship, you're going to have to play your best basketball. Maybe you can get by in the first weekend with not bringing your A game in some of those matchups, but you're going to have to be playing your best basketball at the right time of year if you are going to win a national championship. And that's why I say Alabama certainly can win it all, because as we've seen, when they are playing at their best this year, they are, in my opinion, arguably, one of the top 2 teams in the country right there with Auburn. So it's just a matter of, are you going to get the best version of Alabama? Similarly for Auburn, as we saw against Texas A&M last night, you don't have your A game, you can still get beat. But if Auburn plays the level of basketball that we've seen them play for 95% of the season, they're probably going to find themselves in the Final Four. And I think it's a similar case for Alabama. But Auburn's been more consistent this year where Alabama has not. And I think that's where maybe some of the pessimism comes in of, okay, well, we've just seen Alabama's warts maybe more frequently than we have a team like Auburn.
Our resident Vegas insider, Brian Edwards, is going to tell us where the sharp money is going, give us thoughts on Alabama and Florida if he's got a play on that. Other college basketball in the NBA as well. You don't want to miss Brian. He's next on Three Man Front. .1047 three-man front. That sound means that Brian Edwards, our resident Vegas insider, expert, handicapper, just a friend, just a good dude, joining us now. Hey, Brian, how are you?
What's happening, fellas? How are y'all?
We are doing well. I will bring this up because I saw a hot board coaching candidate list for Florida State basketball. Leonard Hamilton hanging it up. And I saw that Bucky McMillan of Samford here locally, and also Andy Kennedy, UAB head coach, on that list. Do you have any insight from your brethren across the state?
I saw that too. Was that Jeff Goodman's tweet?
It was.
Yeah, I saw that as well. I think that Bucky would be an interesting hire. From what I've heard, and I haven't researched it a lot, but just talking to a few FSU fans, and I'm not even sure how to pronounce it. It's not Sam Cassell, but it's the other FSU alum that's the NBA assistant. I want to say it's Sacramento. I want to say it's Kouchs. I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but I've heard that guy is getting a lot of traction, but I'm really not in the know, to be honest. So we shall see. But I mean, FSU should be good in basketball, especially with the way the ACC has been down so much the last decade and change.
So, Brian, I know we got a lot of games coming up this week, and we want to talk about as well as some stuff tonight, but we know the big one here. A little bit of a conflict of interest for you being here in Birmingham on the air with us, being the Gators fan that you are, but a big one tonight in Coleman Coliseum, Alabama, a favorite over the Florida Gators tonight. Which way are you leaning in this game tonight, expecting a lot of points in Coleman Coliseum?
Yeah, no lean. I'm on the over. I like it, and I could see it going up. I feel like Alabama's totals, whatever they are in the morning, I think they're, pretty. I have to go back and look at the line movement, but I want to say the last 5 or 6 games, the total is usually 2 or 3 points higher by the time we get to tip off what it is this morning. So 178.5 at a lot of books at last look. I could see it getting into the low 180s in a few hours. I'm going with the over. The over's hitting 7 straight head-to-head meetings. Now I'll concede that only 4 of those have gone over tonight's total because it's way higher. But the last 3 head-to-head have had 190, 192, and 191. The over is 4-2 for Bama in its last 6 this season, obviously, and one of the 2 unders had 179 that would have gone over where we're at right now. And Alabama's last 4 games, when it's had totals in the 170s, which means the line has been set where they know it's another team that is willing to run with them. Last 4 Bama games, totals in the 170s. The over's 4-0. Florida's 10th in the nation in scoring, 83.8 points per game. Ken Pom has the Gators ranked 4th nationally in offensive efficiency. Ken Pom has Bama number 1 nationally in adjusted tempo, number 5 in pace, number 3 in offensive efficiency. The Tide leads the nation in scoring, 91 points per game, and the Tide number 348 out of 364 Division I teams in scoring defense, giving up 80.1. So that's an average of only 171.1. But a lot of teams try to slow the pace. Florida will not do that. Florida will be more than willing to engage with the up and down tempo. Let's go over.
Brian, how about another game coming up tonight in the SEC? I feel like this is a small line. You got Missouri on the road at Lloyd Noble there in Norman, taking on the Oklahoma Sooners. Last check, it was Missouri around a 4.5 point favorite. What's the latest line and which side you like?
So, yeah, 4.5, but I saw Caesars had moved to 4. I was leaning Missouri, going to wait on the line movement. Then I looked at the team total, and I said, you know what, I think I just like the team total more than anything. So Missouri's team total is either 81.5, 82, or 82.5. And you look at their last 15 games, they've scored 93, 101, 85, 110, 87, 82. Now here's an outlier, 64, 81, 88, 83, another outlier, 53, 83, 83, 75, and 83. That's getting to 83 points 10 times in the last 15 games. And, Oklahoma is not, a defensive juggernaut. Oklahoma ranks 74th in defensive efficiency. Just gave up 87 to Ole Miss. Just gave up 83 to Kentucky and 87 to Mississippi State and 85 to Florida and 82 to LSU. So I think Missouri team total over 81 and a half, 82, 82 and a half, wherever you can get it. I think that's the way to go. On the side, I lean Missouri, but Oklahoma's playing a little better, and looks like maybe we're getting some money on Oklahoma. So if you're thinking Missouri on the side, maybe be patient, wait till lunch. Maybe that thing will get lower.
So, Brian, from the SEC to the former conference of Missouri and Oklahoma, the Big 12, you have a game going on tonight between Kansas State and Cincinnati. Cincinnati trying to punch their ticket to the NCAA tournament. Kansas State with a number of big upsets here. It's been a rough year for them, but they've had some big wins, certainly. So what do you think about that game that's going on tonight over there in Cincinnati, Ohio?
So I made Cincinnati 6.5, and it's 9. And so I'm just going to trust my numbers and go with Kansas State. Now, they've struggled a little bit here, but that's been with Coleman Hawkins out. Now, I like them whether Hawkins plays or not, but I'm feeling kind of optimistic that he's going to play. He's a game time decision. He's missed 3 in a row with a knee injury he got against Utah, but he finished that game against Utah. I had a bet on it. I was watching the whole thing. But look, K-State, their last 10 as an underdog, 8-2 against the spread with 4 outright wins. They already played Cincinnati this year, and they beat them 70-67, albeit at home. Cincinnati does have some double-digit wins at home, but they have lost 4 times outright at home, and they're only 6-9-1 against the spread at home. So give me K-State +9, whether Hawkins plays or not. If he gets upgraded, it'll probably move down to +7.5, maybe even lower. That's another reason why I'm getting it at 9. But I like it whether Hawkins plays or not.
Brian, the slate of SEC games to close out the regular season in the conference, it's going to be impressive on Saturday. You have already made some of your lines, and some of your lines are contingent on results from tonight or if certain guys play. Quickly go through for our listeners some of the games and where you have those lines set for this Saturday.
Yeah, so I've got Georgia at -4 at home to Vandy. I have got Arkansas. It just depends on their leading scorer, Thiero. If he is back, I've got them 5.5 at home to Mississippi State. If he's still out, I got them -4. I've got Mizzou -6 at home to Kentucky. The Vols -15.5 at home to South Carolina. I've got Auburn. I wrote down 6.5 or 7 versus Bama. I wrote down the total 177.5 or 178. We'll see how Bama does tonight and maybe adjust a little bit. LSU was missing 2 key players last night, Chest and Miller. If they're back, I've got A&M in a vintage letdown spot -4 at LSU. If those guys are still out, I'm thinking A&M -5.5 or 6. I've got Gators -12 at home to Ole Miss if the Gators win at Bama tonight. If they lose, Florida has been ridiculously good in their 4 bounce back spots this year. If they lose, I think I got 13.5 or 14 at home to Ole Miss. And then I've got Texas -5 at home to Oklahoma. And that'll be a game I'm looking for the over. The over's hit at 9 straight for Texas. And the over going into tonight's game against Missouri, it is on a 2-0-1 run for the Sooners, but I mean the push was 165 points combined.
And championship week is here, and it continues next week as we get ready to roll into March Madness, one of the greatest times of the year on the sports calendar, if not the greatest. I would say that if we didn't live in college football country. Brian Edwards, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Great insight.
Thanks, fellas. Y'all have a great week.
Roll Tide, Brian.
Oh, he didn't give you one back.
No, he didn't.
Brian Edwards.
He's the enemy tonight.
At Vegas B. Edwards on Twitter. Chris Stewart, voice of the Crimson Tide, gets us ready for Alabama, Florida in Coleman. Chris is next. 11 o'clock here on the Wednesday edition of Three Man Front. Landrum Roberts, Conrad Van Order, Molly Robinson, Pat Smith back with us tomorrow. Last night, and Bryan College Station, Texas A&M. They hand Auburn their second loss in conference play, third loss overall, 83-72. Janai Broome only 8 points, had to go out briefly with a shoulder injury. Denver Jones did not play. The Auburn point guard out with the soft tissue injury there. You didn't get much production from the bigs. Texas A&M, that continues to be problematic with that style and what Buzz puts out there on the court. Buzz, he's got that suit working, doesn't he?
Yeah, and that goatee.
Yeah. Got that good. It seems like Buzz always needs a cough drop.
I like during the game, he was, most coaches drink water. I don't know what it was, but maybe it was like sparkling water or something, but he had a can and it looked like they put copy paper around it. Yeah. So it's not advertising and doesn't cause any problems. I just thought I got a kick out of that.
What was it? Did they say what it was?
No, I don't, but I just like to think there's somebody on staff whose job is to go and like pre-roll all of these cans.
I know these people, they pay a lot of money for the corporate sponsorship, but I hate their product. I'm going to drink these. Just make sure that they don't show on TV.
Yeah, you just don't see that stuff often, but I guess there's somebody on Texas A&M who's the can wrapper.
A guy who is not a can wrapper. He will drink from a can occasionally, but pinky will be down. It is Chris Stewart. He is presented by our friends at Craneworks.
Lift it, load it, grade it, grind it, move it, haul it, rig it, dig it, Craneworks, Rentalworks, yeah! The big dog's got it.
Crimson Tide Network's Chris Stewart on Three Man Front is brought to you by Craneworks. Lift it, buy it, rent it. The big dog's got it. And now, Chris Stewart.
And Chris joins us, as all of our guests do, on the Buyers Right hotline. Chris, how are you? It's game day.
I am great because it's a game day and it's a home game, and I'm sad it's the last home game of the year because it's been a fun season, but a lot more fun still to come. But man, it has flown by.
Obviously, the setup and the storyline for this game, it's changed since we saw number 1 versus number 2, Auburn and Alabama, and the significance of that and what it meant here in this state. But you got two teams that got great shots, according to Vegas, and based on eyeball tests that we've seen of going deep into the tournament, if not cutting down the nets when it's all said and done, compared to the buzz. And I realize you're not conversing with students every day, but compared to the buzz that was there prior to the IBOB to tonight's game with Florida, what kind of buzz is there in T-Town?
Well, I'm paying tuition for one of them. So, I'm in pretty good communication with one student anyway, and he is a teenager for less than a month. But no, it is an exciting game. It's an important game, obviously, and I think it's just the next night in the SEC. That's what's crazy. Most years, this would have been the game of the year. When you're talking about 5 versus 6, think about it. We know because we followed the league for a long time. 5 versus 6 would have been the game, or 5-7, whatever we are right now. But instead, it's just the next game, and it's huge, but it is the next game, and the league is so good. It's very important between these two, obviously, for seeding from a conference tournament, as well as the NCAA. We said this for years about the SEC baseball tournament, that it was going to be as good or as competitive as Omaha. And literally, I think we're going to have that. I mean, you think about it when you get to Friday, especially, but you're down to the 8 teams that are left, you're potentially going to have as high or higher seeds in the SEC tournament and in the Elite Eight than you do in the Elite Eight of the NCAA. Just amazing what's been accomplished by everybody across the board. There's some nights where some teams are not very competitive, a couple of them, but it's so rare because we've seen it with South Carolina. We've seen it occasionally with LSU. They can play with the top teams if the top teams are off their game. And even if you're pretty good, like Alabama was Saturday in Knoxville, if you're not really good for the full 40, there's a good chance you're going to get beat.
And something that you mentioned, and I brought it up to Conrad earlier in the show, Chris, but the entitlement that we as fans, we quickly develop in our line of thinking, because this should be that game of the year, the one that Alabama fans have circled, but the league is just so good top to bottom. It seems like we've done this song and dance 4 or 5 times already.
Well, you've already had 1 versus 2, 1 versus 1, basically the first matchup between Alabama and Auburn. You're going to have another top 10 matchup, Alabama and Auburn, this weekend. You just had 5 versus 6 in Knoxville, and now you got 5 versus 7. And, it probably would have been 3 versus 5 or 4 versus 5 if Alabama had been able to hang on against the Volunteers. So it is. I mean, and it's everywhere you go. You look at, you think of teams that had some tough slides and drop games, and you go, wait a minute, they're sitting there below the 500 mark, and they're still firmly in the NCAA tournament field based on Joe Lunardi, who's really, really good at figuring that stuff out. So I'm thrilled as a basketball fan that's where our league is. And it's also why I've gone into every game, been able to just enjoy it, even though I know it's going to be a bloodbath. It's one you can enjoy because a loss, it's not like it's your lone opportunity. There's not so much, there is a lot riding on each game, don't get me wrong, but it's not as if your postseason existence rides on that matchup, because there are few. And I think I talked about this last week, guys. I still, remember Anthony Grant's second year, I believe it was, where we beat whoever we beat in the final home game of the regular season. And that night, Florida with Billy Donovan, I think it was his last year, went to Nashville to play Vanderbilt with Kevin Stallings as the head coach. And if Vandy beats Florida, Alabama's co-champion with Florida for the SEC title. So we finished 1 game out. Lost the head-to-head with the Gators in Gainesville, who's went from a tie game to lose it at halftime to losing by 20. But finished 1 game out of first place in the SEC and did not make the NCAA tournament field.
That's wild.
That's how far we've come. That is how far we've come in this league. It's not overnight, but it shows you that all seasons are not made the same, and this league is now at the level it should be, because this is one of the premier conferences, if not the premier conference in all of college athletics. And so what is the second most visible sport behind college football needs to be at that level, and thank goodness it now is.
So, Chris, before we look at this game tonight against Florida, I do want to go back to the weekend and just, as heartbreaking of a loss as it was against Tennessee, I know for, a lot of Alabama fans, probably the most heartbreaking regular season loss here in recent memory. But, walking away from that game, I don't know if you feel the same way as I did, but, I looked at it as, man, Alabama was the better team for 39 and a half minutes. It just kind of all crumbled apart there late in that game. And do you think that there are positives that could come out of a loss like that? Because it had a very March Madness feel to it, right, with the buzzer beater. And you could easily see where Alabama finds themselves in a game like that in the NCAA tournament. So do you think going through some of those growing pains, whether it was, on the player side of things or Nado's not calling a timeout on the inbounds, things like that, that this could ultimately be a positive and a good learning experience for when Alabama gets in the tournament and potentially gets in a close game like that?
There's the opportunity for it, but just because you've experienced it doesn't mean that it will become one. And, there were a lot of great things that happened for you to be in that position to have a chance to win. There are a lot of things that occurred over the course of the game that prevented you from being in position to where you a 2-possession, 1 rebound situation, whatever you want to say, ended up costing you the game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Tennessee struggled at the free throw line as well, but Alabama had an off night at the line. That can't happen on the road against a team like Tennessee. And you can talk about a ton of things in the course of the game, but all you have to evaluate is the last, I think, 4.5 seconds of the first half, and obviously the final 3.6 of the second. Tennessee scored 6 points in that time frame. If you recall, Bama went up 7 with under 5 seconds to go in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee races to the other end of the floor, gets a layup, a foul, and one, and cuts it from 7 down to 4. So there's your first 3 points that mattered, and then obviously the buzzer beater to end the game. That's 6 points in the final 5 seconds of each half that cost you the game. If you're just looking at those, if you want to just find 2 possessions, again, there's 4 possessions Tennessee can look at and just as easily say, well, if we do this, then it's a 3-possession victory, maybe over Alabama. And they're right. But it just, Coach Stallings used to always talk about the 4 or 5 plays that are going to determine the outcome of a football game, but you just never know when they're going to occur. Same thing with possessions in basketball, that you have, especially with the pace we play at now, or the pace that Alabama plays at. You don't think of a trip here or there as being a difference maker, and obviously there's more chances to make it up, but there's also opportunities where it doesn't go right, that if you do fix that, heck, your outcome is what you want it to be. And unfortunately, especially in those final situations, they weren't the way we need them to be. Those are among the things that Nate and the staff work with the players on about cleaning up, so that if they are in that spot again, hopefully it'll go the way we want it to.
Voice of the Crimson Tide, Chris Stewart, presented by our friends at Craneworks, joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline. You look at this Florida team, we know when Florida is well, they can be you-know-what. Tonight, their strengths versus Alabama's strengths, what are some of the big keys you're looking at in tonight's matchup, Chris?
I think defending, again, this is a thing that's been an issue at times, defending the perimeter, but also being strong inside. Alabama has got to guard and to maximize opportunities. Once they get to the line, then they've got to maximize those. Certainly it helps if you shoot it at a high rate from 3, but as we've talked about, it's getting to the rim, putting pressure on the opposing defense, finishing when you're at the rim, because they haven't done that as well in their last 2 losses as they need to. But I think also the ability to close out possessions defensively. Too many second, third chances were given up to Tennessee at some key moments, and again, that flipped things. And I won't be at all surprised if this comes down to a late game 1-2 possession situation. Either way, the thing is, if you don't play well, you could have a situation like Ole Miss where it's not, or Missouri or Auburn, where it was not a final second situation. You put yourself in such a hole, you're out of reach. So hopefully they'll get those things cleaned up, fixed up, guard, and not let Florida's tremendous backcourt get going offensively, and can keep this thing where it's very much either in our favor or within arm's reach as we come down the stretch.
So, Chris, I wanted to ask you, because we already know Nate Oates has said that Darion Reed is not going to be available tonight. We haven't seen him on the court in a number of weeks now. A guy that showed a lot of promise when he was on the court earlier in the season, but unfortunately injuries have been a bit of a problem for him this year. So just based on what you know, just being around the program, do you have a sense of, will we see Darion Reed on the court for Alabama again this season? Maybe that depends on how far Alabama ultimately makes it in the NCAA tournament. But I just kind of wondering what you read right now on was Darion Reed for the rest of the way.
Yeah, look, I don't have any more of a read on it than what you guys do, certainly based on what Coach has said. And it's an example, and everybody's got this. I mean, Auburn's clearly not as good when Janai Broom's on the bench with a hurt shoulder. Texas A&M was not as good when they had key players out in key stretches. Everybody deals with that. You're not full strength unless you're full strength. And as good as Alabama's roster is, as deep as Alabama's roster is, Latrell Wrightsell Jr. is your best perimeter defender and one of the best three-point shooters in America. And you haven't had him after the first handful of games because of the Achilles injury that has him out for the year. You would love to have a veteran, hard-nosed, great shooting guy like Houston Millett available. He's hopefully going to get a medical red shirt because he played so few moments. I think he only saw action in maybe 3 games. But he's a guy that would be helping right now. And Darion Reed was very much a part of the mix with his athleticism. He can shoot it from the perimeter, but a strong rebounder, athletic, can get to the rim, can get boards for you and do a lot of things. A McDonald's All-American that, again, yeah, we got another freshman McDonald's All-American, but he plays a different spot. And yes, Alabama's a great team, but some key pieces that may help you, or not may, that would have obviously helped you, a possession here or there, which has been the difference in a couple of games in winning and losing. And as I anticipate tonight and hopefully Saturday will be as well.
He is the voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide, Chris Stewart. He is on the call tonight for Alabama and Florida. He'll be courtside there in Coleman Coliseum with a tip-off at 6 o'clock. And, Chris, you are always brought to us, and we're so appreciative of our friends at Craneworks.
No, definitely am. Craneworks, it's the most trusted name for crane and equipment rental in the Southeast. It's not like it's a fly-by-night company. They've been doing this for over 30 years. Incredible fleet of cranes that range from about 2.5 tons to 500. They've got trained, certified operators. They can help you do the job right. They've got locations around the state now, Birmingham, Nashville, Mobile, and in Huntsville as well. You can find out more information at craneworks.com.
Chris, have a great call. Know you will.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you.
Chris Stewart, presented by our friends at Craneworks on the Buyers Right hotline for all of your insurance, financial, and HR needs. It's Buyers Right Insurance, a Higginbotham partner. If you can't make it to Tuscaloosa tonight, you want to watch the game, you can certainly do it there at Rambler Sports Bar and Grill at the Finnick. The 283-inch high-definition projector screen, the state-of-the-art audio you're going to get throughout the entire restaurant. But the other video boards and the screens, Don, our buddy, he actually tried it out for the first time this weekend. He was like, man, you were not kidding. That is a great, great sports bar. It's the best place that you can watch sports here in Birmingham in that setting. It's Rambler Sports Bar and Grill. Check out the menu. You can get in for lunch today. They're actually open right now. They have a drive-through lunch if you want to do that. They have free parking. They'll validate your parking as well. Rambler Sports Bar and Grill for all of your tournament action, college basketball action, and more. 1630 2nd Avenue South near Railroad Park.
205-834-9450. That'll get you on the courtesy GMC text line, 1-800-239-9569. If you want to join us on the phone lines, want to get your reaction to Auburn's loss to Texas A&M last night, the rest of the SEC hoop slate we had, Alabama, Florida going at it tonight. What are your thoughts? What are your expectations for that matchup? We want to hear from you, so make sure you make your voice heard here on Three Man Front. When we return, we will get your reaction to what happened last night in the SEC and what's coming up in Coleman Coliseum tonight. You're listening to Three Man Front.
11:22, three-man front on this Wednesday. Chris Stewart, courtesy of Craneworks, joining us. Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider, in the 10 o'clock hour. All of that can be found at jocksfm.com and the three-man front podcast section. We appreciate our listeners up in North Alabama, the Huntsville area, on the UMP, also in Montgomery, the capital city, on Jocks 740, and all of you listening on the Jocks 94.5 app.
Well, coming up this weekend up in Hanceville, Wallace State is holding a ribbon-cutting ceremony this Saturday at 11:30 a.m. to celebrate their new synthetic turf at Pete Harris Softball Field. Festivities are going to include a cookout and free game admission, and they're extending a special invitation to all former Lions players, as well as alumni, family, friends, and the public. That's 11:30 this Saturday up there in Hanceville at the Pete Harris Softball Field, McCracken Stadium at Wallace State, Hanceville.
Also coming up tonight, in addition to the three SEC games that we have, Alabama and Florida included, and we've been talking about that at great length so far on the show, you also have a top 20 matchup, number 13 Maryland taking on Michigan in Ann Arbor.
That's a good one.
That is a 5:30 tip on the Big Ten Network. I'm trying to see if there's any other games that would really interest our listeners. No, because if you're not talking about the SEC, you're really not talking about anybody.
Oh, I think there's going to be a lot of people that are staying up late for that Cal-Louisville game tonight, Landrum. What are you talking about?
What time is that when we start?
8 o'clock.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a
Thankfully,
lot
it's
better
not-
than Vanderbilt and Arkansas last night.
Yeah.
9
and-
o'clock tip. That is tough.
Well, and you couldn't even watch again. I mean, this is, like clockwork with the SEC schedule and the way that these games are scheduled out on television, which I'll never understand. But you had another situation last night where the Texas and Mississippi State game goes to overtime. I don't think the Vanderbilt game and Arkansas game came on my TV until there were like 7 minutes left in the first half, just because of how long the Texas and Mississippi State game went on. But yeah, that was a long one. I was up past 11 last night.
Where are you guys in level of excitement for the NCAA tournament? I love this time of year.
Oh, 10.
Through the roof.
This is the most.
Yeah.
Is this the most excited y'all have ever been for an NCAA tournament?
I would say it's got to be at least equal to.
Yeah.
I can't name the year that I was more excited. Last year, I didn't expect Alabama to go on the run that they did.
No.
I don't think anybody
I
did.
thought they were going to lose in the first weekend, to be honest. with you.
Did not expect Auburn to do what they did when you saw their bracket back in 2018, 2019, and having to go through the likes of Kansas, North Carolina, Kentucky. But yeah, I love it. I love it. Those first 2 days, not the play-in games, and the play-in games are fun.
Oh, that Thursday and Friday.
But that Thursday and Friday, there's nothing like it.
Yeah, no, that is up there. I mean, I would say behind the opening weekend of week 1 of college football, not week 0, week
week
1.
Very different. Yeah.
I would say that's at the top. And then, I mean, that Thursday and Friday of the NCAA tournament we have coming up, that'd be a very close number 2. It's tough to beat. And it's awesome because it feels like everyone understands what's going on, right? Whether you're at work, whether you're out in public, everybody is focused on their bracket. Everybody's trying to find out what game's going on, what upset's going to happen. It's awesome. It's like a community thing.
That was one of my favorite memories, like growing up in Michigan, because obviously, everyone knows about Izzo in March and Michigan State. And I remember like that Thursday and Friday, our school teachers, we were always allowed to eat lunch in our classrooms instead of the lunchroom. And like on the big Promethean board, our teachers would always have March Madness pulled up.
Really?
That's one of my favorite childhood memories every single year.
We would go into the media center because we didn't have the technology that you two had at your disposal when I was in school. We go to the media center, and that was back when, before you had True TV and TBS carrying all the games, you had basically CBS 42 here in Birmingham. So got on the rolling cart, big TV, heavy TV on top of the cart. They used to wheel into the classrooms to watch the videos and stuff. Would go in there and took a paper clip and actually put it into where the coax would go into and made a little antenna, and you were able to get enough, to get enough of where you could make out what was going on. You could hear some actual uninterrupted volume from the announcers. But yeah, we would watch that, keep up with our bracket, and then school bell rang and straight home and go watch the rest of the games.
Y'all were so creative back then. We just used like our driver's license to, unlock doors and stuff like that. We didn't know how to use make antennas out of paper clips. We were spoiled.
Yeah, we were.
Well, you would have found ways to do things.
Oh, we would have. I'm sure we would have figured something out. Yeah, that's why I was always a fan in high school. I had a bunch of coaches as teachers, and I think Yeah, you kind of
Yeah.
know how that typically goes. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're just going to put the games on today, everybody. It's like,
Well, they got a bracket
sounds
too.
great to me. Oh,
These teachers got brackets. You don't think that they're in the teacher lounge? They got a bracket going on?
I was about to
Crazy.
say, I'm sure they got a bracket pool at
Somebody's
at
running
a lot
that
of
thing.
places. Like, 100%. Maybe it's the basketball coach, but no, it's such an incredible time of year, and the fact that it's right here around, and just everything going on with it, because we have Alabama Auburn on Saturday. We're going to get fired up for. Then you're going to have a great week of games in Nashville for the SEC tournament. Hopefully, Auburn and Alabama find themselves, making it pretty deep there in Nashville, and then it starts with the NCAA tournament. And then right when you start, I feel like, at least for me, right when you start to get to that point in the NCAA tournament where it's like, oh man, it's almost over. It's been so much fun, but now we're having to wait 4, 5, 6 days in between these matchups. You get opening day of Major League Baseball. So it's just such a fantastic time of year for sports. If you like basketball, baseball, if you like everything.
Well, it's not only that.
Incredible.
You get the Masters. You're going to get
Yeah.
you get the Players Championship, which I'm trying to remember when they have that now. But March, April, and May, those 3 months for me. Just not only the weather outside, maybe it's because we're coming out of the cold and we don't have the deep freezes that they do in other parts of the country. But
Players Championship is next weekend.
okay, you feel better about. I feel happier. I'm in a better mood. Weather's better outside. It's warmer. You're getting some of those sunny days with a nice breeze. Maybe you got to go quarter zip in the morning.
Oh yeah, no, it's part. I mean, Paige and I, like this weekend, we woke up, take the dog for a walk. We went and played some tennis, ate lunch outside. Like, it's just that kind of stuff. It make you feel more alive. It's like you're coming out of hibernation from the winter, especially for us having, I would say, a colder winter maybe than we're used to, a little more winter weather. And so now that you're finally coming out of that, and
spring makes me want to do things that I typically wouldn't want to do. Like, you're never going to find me asking my wife, hey, you know what, this morning on a Saturday morning, you want to go to a nature trail and walk, like during the wintertime.
But right now you want to
springtime,
do that.
yeah, absolutely.
It's great.
Do it in the summer when it's cool in the morning.
And then the pollen comes and
then the pollen comes.
We all feel awful.
You mentioned spring football. Well, that is taking place. Spring practice taking place right now in Tuscaloosa. Alabama was back at it today. We will discuss observations, early takeaways from Alabama Spring Camp 2025 as three-man front continues on Jocks 94.5. 11:33, 3-man front here on this Wednesday. Alabama practice news and notes from spring practice down in Tuscaloosa. That coming up in just a moment. A little bit of college football news. Former Troy head coach, also West Virginia head coach, Neil Brown is reportedly being targeted for a role on the 2025 coaching staff for Coach Steve Sarkisian and the Texas Longhorns. The role is still to be determined. A deal has not been finalized, but could be soon. And, of course, Brown spent the last 6 seasons coaching West Virginia. It was hard to believe that Neil Brown was at West Virginia for 6 seasons, but went 37-35 before being fired back in December. He was 35-16 at Troy with a Sun Belt championship back in 2017.
That's certainly a good guy to have on your staff. If you can get Neil Brown to come in and whatever role he's going to play as an assistant coach, that's somebody I'd want on my staff.
You know, a great staff is Dobbs Ford right there on Parkway East. You're going to get Dobbs Ford. Alabama's larger showroom selection, but Rachel and Joey Goshen, they're going to be there to greet you. If they're not out on the lot or in the showroom when you arrive, just request one of them and say, Landrum from Jocks 94.5 said that I have to meet you. It's not only the Goshens, the managing partners at Dobbs Ford, but it's also the other just fine people that work there, whether it's in the body shop, whether it is there in sales, in service, they're going to take care of you. Total transparency, the F-150s, the Mustangs, the Broncos Sports, the Escapes, the Explorers, DobbsFordBirmingham.com. They'll beat any competitor's price. DobbsFordBirmingham.com. Go see and feel the difference at Dobbs Ford, and make sure when you do to tell them Landrum from Jocks 94.5 sent you.
So down in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, the Crimson Tide hit the practice field for their second spring practice earlier this morning. And so we have a couple observations coming out of there. Ryan Grubb is also meeting with the media, similar to how Kalen DeBoer did on Monday. Just kind of a quick thing there on the practice field, but some interesting insights from him. So we'll start with Ryan Grubb, and then we'll get to some news and notes from the field this morning because the media was able to get out there at least for a few minutes and make some observations. But Ryan Grubb, talking to the media, asked about Ty Simpson. According to Ryan Grubb, Ty Simpson, again, it's early on, but he said Ty Simpson has made the biggest jump from spring practice 1 to spring practice 2. So that's certainly a good sign for the guy that I think we expect to be the starting quarterback for Alabama, at least in week 1, or at least it's his job to lose. So Ty Simpson making a big jump already in the first 2 practices. Ryan Grubb was asked about Keelan Russell and who he reminded him of. And he said that Keelan Russell's vision of the field reminds him a lot of Michael Penix. I think that's something that will make Alabama fans happy, Landrum. We also have somebody asked what we can expect from his play calling duties. What kind of offense is he going to run? How does he like to call a game? And his response was one word, aggressive. And so that's exactly what you would expect if you watched him while he was at Washington or any of his other previous stops with Coach DeBoer. Let's see, going on, Ryan Grubb asked about Austin Mack, the third quarterback there in that room. Says he's noticed that he's been putting in a lot of work over the past year. If you remember, Austin Mack did spend 1 year at Washington with Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer before he joined Coach DeBoer and transferred to Alabama last year. So seems like he's making some strides in the right direction. We talked about Michael Carroll. I brought him up on Monday as a guy with some offensive line injuries for Alabama that was probably going to get some very helpful reps, a very highly touted freshman coming in this year's recruiting class. Ryan Grubb on Michael Carroll says, quote, he's got a long ways to go, but he's a great kid. And then he would go on to praise him for what Michael Carroll did during the fourth quarter program in the offseason since being an early enrollee. Seems to have showed a lot of progress there. According to Ryan Grubb, he's very high on the wide receiver room, which is not a big surprise with Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, Isaiah Horton coming over, Jalen Hale being back from injury. So not a lot of surprise there. But yeah, again, second day of spring practice. Glad to hear that things seem to be going well. But that's Ryan Grubb addressing what he's seen through the first 2 practices. High praise for the quarterbacks there, as well as the wide receiver room. Now for just some more general observations from spring practice this morning. So there was no offense versus defense play going on the practice field. It was group and individual drills that the media was able to observe. Players were in their shells, had on helmets and shoulder pads, according to media that was there in attendance. We have Ryan Grubb who, when he was on the field, this is another thing we talked about with Nick Sheridan staying on staff and being the quarterback's coach. Maybe that would free Ryan Grubb up to have more of an overseer position and kind of have his hands on every part of the offense. But it seems, at least today, he was mainly focusing on the quarterback position. There was video of him coaching up Keelan Russell after a drill there on the field. We also have, he also has Kane Womack on the field, kind of just mixing it up with all the different defensive groups that they had on the field out there. Chuck Morrell, one of the new, he was in an off the field role last season. Now he's going to be on the field with the promotion that he got earlier this offseason. He was there with the linebacker group. We also have safeties seem to be doing a good job working on their different ball drills. It says Kalen DeBoer mainly focused on the offensive side of things. He was seen coaching up Keelan Russell at times as well on the practice field. And, if you saw the video that came out from the first spring practice, just a little highlight reel of some of the throws, that's essentially what you got from the quarterbacks today, making some nice throws, but you're throwing against air. So there's a lot of players that look great when they're throwing against air. And
it's better than looking bad.
It is better than looking bad, but again, just keep some of these expectations in check. I know Keelan Russell, he can flick that ball. He looked incredible, but
going back to last year, you put more of Alabama's offensive deficiencies on the guy that was playing quarterback the majority of the season or on the coordinator?
Can I say 50-50?
You can.
I mean, it's just difficult because the highs were so high at times. And I think that was the most befuddling part. It wasn't that Nick Sheridan was, a terrible play caller the entire season. It wasn't that Jalen Milroe was terrible the entire season. It was just the games where it reared its ugly head. It was really ugly. And so I would personally go 50-50. I think Jalen Milroe made a lot of bad decisions. But I also think that Nick Sheridan didn't do him a lot of favors at times. And I think that the offense was kind of stagnant and they didn't really know what to do with some of the pieces that they had. So
I wonder what the expectations are with fans for Ryan Grubb. Some will be unrealistic. And
I was about to
think
say
that he'll come in and he'll turn the key and all of a sudden Alabama's putting up just stupid numbers. You name the quarterback or the wide receiver tandem that they've had in the past where they put up stupid numbers. But I think that I would be cautious in what to expect, especially with the uncertainty of who's going to be playing quarterback and some other issues. What does the offensive line come together? What does the depth look like there?
Yeah, and I don't think you're saying like you expect Alabama to be good offensively, but you just don't know if it's going to be overnight clockwork. Oh, this is the best offensive team in the country, like some people may be expecting with Ryan Grubb coming over.
Yes, and it at least appears. And it's all about perception, but it appears that with Ryan Grubb now being in Tuscaloosa as the OC, and you've demoted your offensive coordinator,
yes,
to another spot. I can see where people think it's instant remedy. I'm not trying to paint a doom and gloom, but I don't think that would be fair to Ryan Grubb with the expectations if you have coming in. I'm not saying you're not going to be a top 20 offense.
But one coordinator, as great as we might think Ryan Grubb is, you can't put all of it on him to say, hey, fix everything. That's not how it works.
No. And you also have to think about some of the games where you could be critical of Jalen Milroe or be critical of Sheridan. You go back to the team that won the national title last year in Ohio State. Chip Kelly, was anybody burning his house down after that offensive performance versus Michigan?
It wasn't great.
No, it wasn't.
I think that's
I feel like they felt pretty good about their quarterback all year.
Yeah, no, and I think they did. And going back to, let's take the Oklahoma game for
Oklahoma
example.
game is the one that's the booger.
Yes, that one is, because even in the Vanderbilt game, I don't think you played poorly offensively. You played poorly defensively. You couldn't get Vanderbilt off the field.
You scored enough to win.
Absolutely. Similarly against Tennessee. See, I look at Tennessee as more of that's on Jalen Milroe because he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn that Saturday. That's just the way that game went. But then you look at Oklahoma, and while, yes, some of the decisions and interceptions that Jalen Milroe made were absolutely atrocious, there was also no excuse for why Alabama decided to run it up the middle with the quarterback. It felt like a dozen times in the first half of that game when it clearly wasn't working early on. So, Ryan Grubb's going to have his work cut out for him, but I think the big thing for him, and I think the big thing in whoever wins the quarterback battle, is just who is going to be the most consistent, who's going to be accurate, who's going to make the smart decisions. I've said this a couple times already this offseason. If Ty Simpson is the quarterback, in my mind, Ty Simpson does not need to be one of the 5 best quarterbacks in college football next year for Alabama to make the playoff. He needs to be one of the 25 best quarterbacks in college football, because I think you have enough talent around him to where if he's just not turning the ball over, you're going to be really, really solid offensively. I think we know the plus side. The upside is there with Ryan Grubb and what happens if one of these quarterbacks does break out. But it's going to be very interesting to see. And I do think that, the Ryan Grubb stuff, while that was a great hire, I would caution people to, just keep your expectations in check, because it is going to be a new quarterback, a lot of new faces. And, that's just the way that it's going to be.
We do have college football futures that have been released. Some very entertaining prop bets concerning North Carolina's Bill Belichick. We'll get to those. We continue 3-Man Front on this Wednesday on Jocks 94.5. 11:48 here on Three Man Front on this Wednesday. Landrum Roberts, Conrad Van Order, Molly Robinson, Pat Smith is back with us tomorrow. He joins us throughout the college football and basketball season. It is our buddy JR with TakingVegas.com, and he joins us as all of our guests do on the Buyers Right Hotline. Happy championship week, kind of. College basketball, JR? Yeah, kind of. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. I could not be more pumped up, couldn't be more excited. We're about to go dancing, and conference championships are literally on the horizon. We're about to set up shop, and I mean, this is the time of year where we make the most money for all of our clientele. This is the time of year where I really get bankrolls built up to take advantage of the big dance, and it has been a phenomenal season so far. We're documented over 72% for my top plays for my biggest clients, and I'm going to tell you right now, we're heading in the direction where everything's going to work out, especially in that first and second round, which I will be in Las Vegas between the 19th and the 24th. I'll be meeting a ton of clients out there, and we're going to be rolling in dough. So here's what I'm doing. As always, I come armed and dangerous with the point spread winner of the game I know you guys want, and that's going to be the big winner of number 7 against number 5, Florida at Alabama. Guys, this winner is free. It is via text message. Text the word WIN to 545454. I'm going to give you the winner of Florida, Alabama. Again, against the spread winner, 100% free, no strings attached. Text the word WIN to 545454 to get that Gator Crimson Tide winner absolutely free. Again, WIN to 545454.
JR, for our listeners that don't play on a regular basis, a lot of them, I'm guessing, I'm sensing, because I'm already getting texts during the week from some of them that they're antsy to play. What is the best advice you can give to our listeners who are choosing to play this college basketball postseason for not only NCAA March Madness, but also for the different conference tournaments we're going to get around the country?
So we know we're going to play the majority of our money during the tournament. We want to make sure that we at least have it to go through the entirety of the tournament. So percentages is everything, right? When it comes to strategy, when it comes to implementation, you want to make sure that you have something that makes sense. So during this time of year, I would not go above and beyond a maximum of 15% of the overall bankroll that you're playing with in order to be able to attack until we get into the conference tournament where you can up it to 20%. And when we get into the big dance now, each day I can go into 15 or 20% of the bankroll throughout the first and second round. So, of course, you want to make sure that if you have a bad day, you're going to lower the unit amount. And if you have a great day, you want to utilize progression. And again, this is all something we teach. And when I say that as an expert in the industry, not only do we win like crazy, but I teach players how to take advantage of the winning and to make sure that we're losing minimally when things don't go our way. And the best thing, believe it or not, Landrum, that can happen is that we win 5, 6, 7, 8 like we usually do in a row. And when we lose, I don't want to lose one here and one there. I'd rather lose 2 or even 3 games in a row because we're losing minimal amounts when we go back to the original bet. So, when we're winning, we utilize a progression, not 100%, not even 50%. We're adding a unit, though, basically on every single win. And that's one of the things we bring to the table. One of the reasons why, if you're doing this at any level, you definitely want to be dealing with somebody that can win for you. And again, I'm giving you the winner of Florida, Alabama for free. Text the word WIN to 545454 to get that winner for free.
And when it comes to the conference tournaments, because we have the SEC that's coming up in Nashville next week, JR, as you well know. Yep. And do you look at it, your approach from what you do, your standpoint, do you look at it like you do meaningless bowl games? Because let's be honest, the tournament committee has told us in recent years that you really can't help yourself that much unless you go out and you win the whole thing and you get an automatic bid. There are the rare exceptions. Do you break it down and kind of look at it from a psychological standpoint of some of these teams and how much buy-in they potentially have in some of these conference tournament matchups?
Well, to say I don't give it any credence would be untrue. I mean, we definitely have to look at every aspect. I mean, the numbers do speak volumes to me, but when it comes down to it, certain teams, they got to win in order to get in some cases, and they're going to play their hearts out. I'm not talking about the subpar 500 teams. I'm talking about teams on the bubble who would rather solidify their position by winning out as opposed to a team that's already got it locked up and can care less. I think that's definitely going to come into play. But the SEC, for instance, let's face it, when it comes down to it, they're just so competitive, right? I don't think that there's going to be a lot of sitting of starting five. I think that you're going to see, especially in the first round, them go out and give it everything they got. But if they see themselves starting to falter, I don't believe that they're going to give it that extra effort or play somebody who might be playing with even a tender ankle or knee or something that maybe could use an extra couple of days or a week to rest before they know that they're getting into the big dance to try to get in there with a little more strength. So yeah, we look at everything. There isn't an aspect we don't watch. I mean, I've got my top capper, the guy that I deal with, who really brings me just about everything resource wise. When I tell you this guy eats, drinks, thinks, sleeps, I mean, he watches every game. It's not every game, obviously, in all conferences, but the main conferences that we are taking advantage of at a very high level. This guy watches basically every single game up and down. And since he's an ex-athlete and understands it, and also was in administration, really understands scouting and the way that these teams line up, that with the numbers is the recipe for why we are so successful at what we do.
He is JR with TakingVegas.com. JR, you also not only on the recorded message, and you're going to get that information out as we wrap up this call, but you also give out a free winner on the air every single week. Which way are you going this week?
Well, normally there would be more of a rivalry in this Wisconsin-Minnesota matchup, but I don't think that there's going to be much going on here other than a steamroll. I think Wisconsin goes into Minnesota and wins this game from beginning to end. They're right now minus 6.5 points. I expect that line to go up the closer we get to tip-off. They're a far superior team offensively. Defensively, they line up pretty well, but just about every player on the court, with the exception of one, is a better starting player on this Wisconsin team. Plus, they're going to be able to hit from deep. I just don't see Minnesota being able to keep up with them. I expect them to be up double digits at the half and to hold on to that lead and steamroll them all the way out to the end of this game. So look for Wisconsin to win, minus the 6.5, absolute easy winner. But look, this is coming down to something huge, guys, and I'm going to tell you now, the money management aspect is really undersold, and if you don't understand strategy when it comes to sports betting, that alone is a reason to get in contact with us. And once you're in and you start to become a part of the winning and the mentality and the culture of what we bring to the table here at Taking Vegas, I'm telling you, you're never going to want to pick games on your own again. So let me show you what it's all about. I love this matchup. Obviously, two great teams going at it right there in your neck of the woods. You got Alabama taking on Florida in a huge SEC matchup. Let me give this one to you absolutely free. Either I let you know that Alabama is going to take care of business or Florida wins this one outright. I've got it locked up. It's yours via text message. All you got to do is text the word WIN to 545454. And you get the winner of that matchup for free. Again, text the word WIN to 545454. As always, be safe, have fun, and Landrum, let's go out there and let's make some money.
Sounds good, JR. Thank you, my friend. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
You too.
JR, TakingVegas.com. Once again, to get the Bama Florida winner, you just text WIN to 545454. Your free pick on the air. Wisconsin, go Badges! They're going to steamroll, according to JR. Minnesota and the Gophers from start to finish. 12 o'clock hour, three-man front on a Wednesday. Comes your way next. 12 o'clock here on Three Man Front. Glad you're with us on this Wednesday. Landrum, Conrad, and Molly hanging out. Pat is back with us tomorrow. Some of the big stories we've been discussing today on the show. Auburn, they fall to Texas A&M last night in College Station. Final score in that one, 83-72. Janai Broome only 8 points. Also, Denver Jones not playing last night. Auburn out-rebounded by 16. 41-25 was the total edge there for Texas A&M, and they came in as the top rebounding team in the country. They also shot it pretty well last night, and that has been uncharacteristic for this Aggie team this season. 13 turnovers for the Auburn Tigers. That resulted in 18 points. Also, Texas A&M, they were decent from outside. They knocked down 9 threes. Not one of the better three-point shooting teams. Whole ball of waxes. Auburn loses a basketball game. Should not affect their seeding. How much concern? That is the question that we asked on the Twitter poll question today, Conrad, at the number 3 man front, is how much concern is there or should there be for this Auburn team moving forward after last night's loss? My thing is, can Auburn impress you anymore as a basketball team this year?
No.
I mean, besides winning a national title.
Well, yes. And before we get to the NCAA tournament, nothing that happens, whether Auburn beats Alabama on Saturday and then goes and wins the SEC tournament, or they lose to Alabama on Saturday and lose their first game in the SEC tournament, it is not going to change how I view them going into the NCAA tournament.
Because my point is, we've already seen this Auburn team, and as good as they have been all season long, seems like the only way that they have to go is down. Or you can just say stagnant.
Yeah.
They're just winning ugly. They're not winning pretty. They've had some of their better games. Purdue is one that I circle, and that's when everything went right in Legacy Arena, and they played really well against a Purdue team that's really not that bad. But some of the other games that we've seen in the SEC, obviously winning by 30 over Ole Miss, you've had some of those games, but you've also had some of the games where it was Georgia on the road, South Carolina on the road, an ugly win over Arkansas at home. They're not going to all be pretty. I think big picture for Bruce Pearl and this team is making sure that everybody's healthy. Janai Broome with the shoulder, number one, and also Denver Jones with a soft tissue injury. Get those guys healthy, and you feel Auburn at their best, knowing that going into almost every matchup, Auburn at their best should be good enough to win.
Yeah, and I mean, even for everything that went wrong with them last night, again, I know you lose by 11 points on the road, but there were opportunities where, again, if you're an Auburn fan, you're looking at and going, man, all right, we were one shot away from, making this a 3-4 point game at times and really feeling like we got our footing back. And you just weren't quite able to do that. And again, I just go back to we talk about this in every sport, and I think it varies from sport to sport, but the mental side of it is always a huge part regardless of what sport you're talking about. And again, this was an Auburn team coming off clinching the SEC regular season title. You knew that you were going to be out without your starting point guard. You have a big rivalry game coming up. You've got some guys that are banged up. On the Texas A&M side, you had just lost 4 in a row. You know that historically, or at least here over the last handful of years, Auburn is a team you've matched up with very well just based on the style of basketball they play under Buzz Williams. You were honoring Wade Taylor for becoming the all-time leading scorer in Texas A&M basketball. They had never won against a number one team until last night. They were just everything again. Like I said earlier, it just felt like a perfect storm for Texas A&M with where Auburn was coming off of clinching the SEC and where Texas A&M was needing a little confidence boost. And so it wasn't a big surprise to me, but I do think that on Saturday you are going to see a rejuvenated Auburn team taking on an Alabama that is going to have revenge on their mind, going to want to try to put a stamp on their resume before the postseason starts. And I think you're going to see Auburn respond in a big way on Saturday. Now, whether they win or lose, we'll see. But I definitely don't think you're going to be questioning their effort or, how mentally focused were you on the game on Saturday.
Last night, Janai Broome, Auburn's leading player and a candidate for National Player of the Year, he goes out with a shoulder injury. It first occurred, and this has been a reoccurring deal, but it first occurred earlier in the season at South Carolina, and then he missed some time. Last night, he goes out. He comes back into the game. Bruce Pearl, after the game, discussing Janai Broome, the injury and moving forward.
It may have affected him, and he obviously had this shoulder injury in December. He's had it banged a few times, and it obviously had it banged tonight, and it was bothering him. He tried to play through it.
So Bruce Pearl on that. Auburn back at home this Saturday versus Alabama at Neville Arena. Brian Edwards, our resident Vegas insider, he makes his own lines. He sets his own lines, and he said that it could change a little bit, but right now he has Auburn as a 6.5 to 7.5 point favorite at home.
Yeah, and I mean that's not surprising just based on, again with Alabama, I think going into the first Iron Bowl of basketball, the first IBOB matchup when you had the 1 versus 2, they were clearly, playing like the 2 best teams in the country. I still think they're 2 of the best teams in the country, but Alabama has taken a little bit of a dip, having the back-to-back losses to Auburn and Missouri, and then now what happened against Tennessee. I think this game tonight is going to, I think this will be a good forecast kind of for what we can expect on Saturday, because it's going to be, again, Florida's a physical team. Alabama's going to have to establish a presence down low. You heard Nate Oates earlier in the show talking about how Sherrell is a guy that he called out as, he's going to have to step up for Alabama tonight in this game against Florida. And, you go back and you look at what A&M was able to do to Auburn last night, and you would say, man, all right, if you're able to go and, kind of impose your will physically against Florida, well, we seem to have a blueprint for making Auburn uncomfortable at the very least. And so we'll see if Alabama is able to carry that on, but you're going to need not only Sherrell, you're going to need Cliff to be good. You're going to need Grant Nelson to step up finally. You're going to need Stevenson. He can be a presence. So they've got a lot of opportunities. It's just going to be, are the guys going to be able to step up? And how do you respond after what happened in Knoxville on Saturday? Did that deflate the team, the way that you lost that game? Or did it fire you up for these last 2 games, knowing that now there's more on the line tonight and on Saturday against Auburn?
Yeah, the mindset of this Alabama team, no matter what happens, is going to be interesting. But especially if they lose again, if they falter again, and then seeing how that team responds on Saturday, which will be a lit Neville Arena crowd, and a crowd that's smelling blood and wanting to get back on the winning side of things as the Auburn Tigers send out their seniors tonight. A little bit different. Nate Oates has announced that the seniors that are going to be honored for senior night, they will be honored in a presentation after the game.
Yep. Interesting decision.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a good reason for that. I don't know what it is, maybe don't pick the Florida guy. I'm thinking the same thing. And look, going into the game, do I expect Alabama to win this game tonight? Yes, I personally do. But
it's when you pick one of those tough teams for homecoming in football, and you end up getting the win, and you're like, well, it's not that big of a deal. But going into it, you're thinking, I'm like you. I would have maybe picked the LSU game.
Yeah, it's just, are you, for football, are you going to have homecoming when you play Georgia? Probably not. Like, maybe that's not an apples to apples comparison, but yeah, it's just kind of an interesting timing.
You go out there and you laid a dud. You lay a dud for 40 minutes.
Yeah, and I guess the belief maybe is, all right, Alabama gets a big win tonight. Let's say, Mark Sears goes off and it's his senior night, and, then it's a big moment after the game for the fans and all that, and maybe that's great, but on the other hand, if you lose, then it's going to be kind of an awkward senior night celebration, I would think.
A little bit different.
A little bit different.
Interesting thing to watch, though, tonight for seeding purposes with the conference tournament coming up is Alabama squarely right now is going to be one of those buys, and you want to be one of those top seeds. But Tennessee right behind them, nipping at their heels at 11-5, and Tennessee's got a big game tonight in Oxford, Mississippi, taking on the Ole Miss Rebels. Missouri is just on the outside looking in at 10-6 in conference play, 1 game out in the win-loss standings, or in the loss column. But this Missouri team, they've got a tough one tonight, a 4.5 point favorite as they're on the road in Norman, Oklahoma. Expanded conference, a really good conference, top to bottom. That's why now with seeding implications and some tournament implications for certain teams, and it's been a great year of basketball in the SEC.
Yeah, but, it's going to be funny if ultimately, because just based on what the brackets look like right now with the bracketology, I think with the wins last night, Georgia and Arkansas are in good shape. I think Vanderbilt's done enough to kind of lock up their spot. And so now you look at Texas and Oklahoma. Texas got a win last night that'll help them. Oklahoma, I would think with a win over Missouri and how good Missouri's been, this would essentially get them into the tournament. But what if we're talking about Texas and Oklahoma, the newbies here in the SEC, being the teams that ultimately let us down and potentially fall out of the bracket the last week of the season?
I still totally expect Oklahoma to. Texas has given me reason to believe again.
Yeah.
That's a big win last night in Starkville.
Yeah, it was absolutely massive. And for Oklahoma, you're probably still kicking yourself over the Kentucky game last week and how you lost that game and by letting Otega Owe score 18 straight points for Kentucky in the last handful of minutes to beat you. And, that's a game. If you had won that one, you probably wouldn't be in a position this week where you're worried about, are you going to be in? Or are you going to be going to the NIT or what else for the offseason? But a big opportunity for Oklahoma. We saw it last night. The teams that needed to win to secure their spots did so, or at least improve their chances. And now Oklahoma can do that for themselves tonight.
We've got text coming in 205-834-9450. And Johnny adds that they honored the seniors last season after the game, if I'm not mistaken. That's what Johnny says.
I do not remember. I wonder if you can text back in, Johnny, what game it was last year. I'd just be curious to see who they had for senior night last year. But I don't remember that. Maybe they did do that.
I think they did.
Maybe that's Nate Oates' thing. I don't know. Because I'm trying to think last year you would have like Estrada and some of the... It's probably just getting more... It's Mark Sears senior night, and right. I know there's other guys, but I think for a lot of people that's...
Austin texts in and he says Arkansas.
Arkansas for...
Game that they were honored last year?
Oh, okay, for the senior night. Okay.
I guess we'll just take his word for it.
I have no reason not to believe you.
You can Google search it if you choose.
Yeah, it seems like you probably felt better going into that one than a top 5 Florida team.
This text reads, in any sport, when it comes to single elimination tournament, I don't think you can really have expectations. You can have hopes. If you ask the casual fan, how many national championships does Coach K have? They might say about a dozen, I guess. Yeah, college basketball it's so tough. Winning 6 games in the teams that you have to do it, in the time span that you have to do it, neutral court, all of that good stuff. Who's getting hot at the right time? How many veteran guard play do you have? How well do you shoot it from the outside? And there's a lot of different metrics. They don't always match up, but historically they have backed up where teams have finished and how teams have played. It's tough.
I was about to say, you run into a mid-major team that first weekend of the tournament, they hit 50% of their shots from 3 and you're going home. Like, that's just the way the basketball works, and that's what makes it so exciting. That's why we all love the tournament and filling out our brackets and following along. And it's all good and fun until it happens to your team, and then it's not so fun anymore. But it just, with such a spectacular season that we've had up to this point in the SEC, I just really hope that we're able to see it through to the finish line. I really hope that it's an SEC team cutting down the nets at the end of it all. If it's Alabama or Auburn, that would be just the cherry on top. But it just feels different. And I mean, I brought this up before too, when you go back to the beginning parts of the season and how the SEC dominated in non-conference play as well as what they've been doing in conference play. It just really seems like it sets up for a lot of SEC teams to, be able to win a couple games in March of this year.
Giving you an idea historically how tough it is. Coach K, 13 Final Fours.
That's remarkable.
13 Final Fours. We want to take a guess how many national titles?
Is it like 3?
It is more than 3. 1991, 1992, 2001, 2010, 2015.
Okay. So 5. But even that, I mean, you're at what, 40% of the Final Four trips you won a national championship.
Then let's go down to John Wooden. When Wooden got there, he was pretty good.
Yeah.
12 trips, and we know the streak that they had was just incredible from 64 to 73, but then they won it again in 75. Dean Smith. You want to take a guess how many Final Fours that Dean had?
At North Carolina, I'm going to
Coach K has the most at 13.
Yeah, I'm going to say 10 Final Fours and 2 national championships.
I was going to go 8.
Okay. Both of you are close. 11 Final Fours for Dean Smith, 2 natties.
Okay.
1982 and 1993. Next, Roy Williams on that list.
He won 2 national championships? I don't know how many
Final Fours? 9.
Ooh, okay, that's really good too.
Wow,
9 Final Fours, and Roy Williams won 3.
3 national championships?
2005, 2009, and 2017.
I would imagine Izzo's right there on that list somewhere.
Izzo
right?
is the one, though, that sticks out. And this is the one I go to every year. 8 Final Four appearances.
1 national title
in 2000.
Yep. But that's a team that, and I know, nothing is foolproof, but anytime they ever made the NCAA tournament, right it in pen, they were going to win at least 2 or 3 games. That's just the way that Tom Izzo worked.
Mm-hmm.
Statistically, one of the best, though, that's ever done it was Billy Donovan. 4 Final Fours, he won 2.
Yep, that'll do it. And back to back at that.
Henry Iba did the same thing at Oklahoma State back in 1945 and 46, kids.
It's just so incredible. And I don't mean
Jay Wright, by the way, did the same thing at Villanova.
I mean that yes, he
2 out of
did.
4.
He did. But just think about when, how excited we've gotten for Auburn and Alabama making it there for the first time. And then you've got people like, I mean, I know that's how other people look at us for football, but we're all here like, yes, we finally made it to the Final Four, and Duke's made it to, or Coach K made it to 13 by himself.
Don't we kind of look
incredible.
At college baseball in this state, because occasionally we'll get an Alabama that makes it to Omaha and Auburn that makes it to Omaha,
Mhm.
but
Hey, this year might be that year again.
Yeah.
They are both really good.
They are.
off to a good start. By the way, Auburn takes on UAB today at Regions, 5:30 the first pitch. It was scheduled yesterday, but because of the weather we had last night, so get out to Regions this afternoon and watch UAB, who's off to a really good start,
As well.
taking on a ranked Auburn team.
Yep. I think Auburn's 22, Alabama 23 in the latest polls, or maybe it's reversed, but yeah, great start for we're just going to carry it on to baseball. Everything we talk about with basketball, and not only in the SEC, but UAB, Samford, JSU, all those teams, it's coming right back in baseball.
Really excited. We got a tournament-themed Molly Marinates coming up at 12:30, but coming up next, when it comes to Vegas and prop bets, Bill Belichick of North Carolina. They got some concerning him, and they're fun. We'll do them next. Latest Vegas props for Bill Belichick at North Carolina. Coming up in just a moment. Talked a little bit about college football practice continuing in Tuscaloosa for Kalen DeBoer and the Crimson Tide. A lot of work with the quarterbacks and the wide receivers today. Some interesting takeaways there, Conrad, as we continue to follow the progress of that camp. Of course, quarterback position is going to be number one, but newcomers like Isaiah Horton and others to see how they get acclimated. I don't know how much we can learn, but I do know in the past we have heard rave reviews. I can think about Jameson Williams and how good he looked.
Tyler
According to
Harrell.
folks down there. Well, Tyler Harrell was the one that we don't like to use as an example, Conrad, because that is the best player that I've still never seen play.
Yeah, I can't even remember where he transferred to, but I never really heard anything about him after that.
He went from Louisville to Alabama to Miami.
Oh, that's right.
And I have no idea where Tyler is now.
I don't know. Maybe he's hanging out with Carson Beck and they're driving around and with Hannah today, taking in the sunshine.
Maybe he went JUCO and he's buying a year. He's just waiting for some people to cycle out.
Maybe so. That is certainly possible. Quickly though, on the topic of that, if you missed it earlier, some of the stuff, Ryan Grubb meeting with the media for, I believe, the first time now that he's been officially named offensive coordinator at Alabama. A couple of takeaways for what he had to say. He said of the players that made the biggest jump from practice 1 to practice 2, Ty Simpson was at the top of that list. He said Keelan Russell's vision, the way that he sees the field at the quarterback spot, reminded him a lot of Michael Penix there at Washington, now the Falcons quarterback.
No pressure.
No pressure whatsoever. He also had good things to say about the wide receiver room, good things to say about Austin Mack and kind of his development there. So all seems to be good down there in Tuscaloosa through 2 days of spring practice. But again, a lot of going up against air, group, and individual drills, and guys aren't, hitting each other yet. So take it with a grain of salt.
Any college football news we can get, and I saw these, and there's not a ton of them, but there are some Vegas prop bets on Bill Belichick, and I think it was some that the group will enjoy based on our conversations about that whole dynamic.
Oh, I'm very excited for this.
Okay, the first prop bet offered by our friends at betonline.ag. What will happen first with Bill Belichick's girlfriend? Here's your options.
What are these
Starting
options?
off strong.
She enrolls for class at UNC, or she dates a UNC football player.
Oh, no.
Both at minus 120.
Wow.
Not kidding.
So dates a UNC football player or enrolls in class. I think the smart money on that one is enroll in classes, but
Maybe she
she's
wants
not
to get her
going to throw away
master's.
that gravy train, right?
No.
Yeah, his little petty $1 million NIL deal.
I mean,
You got Daddy Bill.
Yeah.
Ugh, that's creepy. I don't like that.
I mean, you've hung on for this long. You might as well,
Keep it
Yeah.
ride it out.
Yeah.
Anyways,
It does go ahead and it puts in small print here. Any wager placed after this becomes public knowledge will be graded as no action. If none by January 30th of 2026, all wagers are no action.
Man.
So get this in.
oh, that's on the what will happen with Jordan on
Yes.
that bet? Okay.
Oh, okay.
Here's your next Bill Belichick. Which UNC fraternity will Bill Belichick join? Beta at plus 300. Sigma Nu, I hear you, plus 400. Phi Delt at plus 500. Sigma Chi at plus 600. Deke at plus 800. And Chi Psi at plus 1,000.
My money's going on Fight Out.
I might
Yeah, I was going to say,
I might go snoo here.
I was going to say in his younger days, I would have gone Sigma Nu, but yeah. Could you imagine Bill Belichick showing up to your fraternity party when you're in college? I mean, that would be just the highlight of your college experience.
You think
if
when
you're
Bill
in that
Belichick
fraternity.
starts consuming keg beer, he gets chatty?
Oh, I like to think so.
It's like, who is this guy?
I would love to see Bill Belichick after about 4 or 5 beers.
Bill Belichick was in a frat.
In college?
Yes, he was.
Okay. Do you know which one it was?
I sure do.
Lambda.
Chi Psi.
Okay, that
It
was
Chi Psi.
that was down. That was on the list.
That was the 6th or 7th option down
He
on
was
the
a Chi
list.
Psi at Wesleyan University.
So are you still a legacy if it's yourself and not your son? It's just, 50 years later. Can you still be a legacy?
Does he have to go? Oh, can you imagine him going through pledgeship?
Oh man, I wonder would they make him carry around take a Tar Heel with him to practice or something and take care of it for a week.
He's getting hazed by his own players.
I can't drink any more of this handle.
No more mayonnaise.
I've already had one.
Will Bill Belichick wear a cutout hoodie North Carolina's first game? Yes, -175. No, +135.
Yes.
Absolutely.
He has to.
And it has to say Chapel Bill on it.
He has to.
And these aren't as well. This one's fun. What will happen first? Bill Belichick breaks up with his girlfriend at -200, or Belichick is fired at the end of the 2025 season, +150.
I hope he doesn't break up with her.
Fired?
That seems like a no bet to me. I don't think either one of those.
Yeah, I'd stay away from that one.
No, but it'd have to be.
What if she breaks up with him?
See, that would
Do
be
we have to key in on wording here?
Is she
What
really
if
going to
it's-
break up with him?
What if it's not you, it's me? One of those deals.
Ugh,
Yeah, you have a lot of those.
no.
No, I've used one. I've used that before. It's not you.
It's me.
Need to work on me.
It's just like, it just reminds me of in The Office when Michael dates Pam's mom. And it's like, yeah, it's the best part about the relationship is anything I want to do, she's already done. And she can tell me if it's fun or not. And it's like, that's exactly how it's like, Bill, do you want to go do this? No.
No, don't. No, Jordan, I don't want to do that.
Okay, Bill. Take your
Not
word
as
for it.
fun, some of the other props. Will UNC win the 2025 ACC championship? Yes, +1,000.
No.
Yeah, I wouldn't be betting on
They
that.
don't give you the option of no there. And
Oh,
will
man.
UNC reach the 2025 ACC championship? Yes, is it +500?
Okay, now that I might be more interested in,
But
but,
not winning the
still
ACC.
not.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be Clemson's to lose, and I mean, I'd still probably go.
What about
Clemson
a
and
12? What
Miami.
about the 12-team playoff at +800?
No.
No.
Yeah, I'm going to go no there as well.
I think they'll be better than they were last year.
Yeah.
I'm not
I
going to be
wouldn't say
surprised.
playoff, though.
No, I would expect 7-5, 8-4, and I think that would be a good year.
Well, if you're curious, the conference odds for the SEC are out. Texas is your odds-on favorite,
No surprise.
followed by
Yeah.
Georgia, followed
Okay.
by
Alabama.
No.
Oh no.
well, kind of
no.
Alabama. They're tied with Tennessee at +600.
okay.
Oh.
Okay.
LSU comes in next, and then Ole Miss at +1,000.
Poor Pat.
Good thing he's not here
I
today.
know.
Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Michigan, Indiana, and USC in that order in the Big Ten. As far as odds,
Where's
Disrespect.
Nebraska?
I know, disrespectful.
Arizona State out of the Big 12, then Kansas State, Texas Tech, Baylor, BYU, and Kansas.
Okay.
And then in the ACC, Clemson, Miami, Louisville, SMU, Florida State comes in with the fifth best odds, and North Carolina
Yes.
at sixth,
They're there.
Okay.
plus 1,200. That's a value.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Conrad's not sure.
No.
I thought he was constipated.
I'm kind of. It did sound
Ugh.
like that for a second, didn't it?
Oh, your face. You were just doing that scrunchy face.
I'm just surprised that. And look, Florida State cannot be worse than they were last year, but
You never know.
okay. Well, so right now going into next
Oh,
season,
gosh.
who are you more optimistic about, Florida State or North Carolina?
For North Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Because Vegas.
Florida
doesn't-
State will be good for one game.
Yeah,
That
they're
will
going to
be-
beat Alabama.
That will be
the
the
first game
opener.
of the season, right?
Gus puts all of his plays in that playbook. And they run a bunch of stuff that Kalen DeBoer and the staff have never seen.
They actually hired him just for that game, and then he retires right
Ki-
afterwards in
Yeah.
the press
You
conference.
think about you want to talk about redeeming yourself. Norvell, you come out and you win game one versus Alabama at Doak Campbell.
Oh, and the whole narrative of, the coaching search and was Norvell actually considered? Was he not? And, the Florida State people are like, oh, no, he wanted to be here regardless. And
You want to talk about
the Alabama people are like, he never even got an interview.
If that was to happen, though, guys, the doomsday shelter we would need to retreat to.
Yeah.
Game one?
Against Florida State?
I don't even want to think about that.
No. You imagine what the next 13 weeks are going to be like for us?
Oh.
No, I was having a good day, and now I have to think about that, Landrum.
I'll mark it down. Florida State beats Alabama. Week one. Conrad.
FSU Dave will be happy. At least we know one guy that'll be happy.
A tournament-themed Molly Marinates. You don't get them often, so you don't want to miss it. It's next on Three Man Front. 12:33, 3 in front. We have Molly Marinades coming up. She asked 5 questions. I don't know if she has a bonus or not. Feel like we've been good. But we'll get that.
We have to get through this segment before, we really know.
That's exactly right. The text line is open, 205-834-9450. Going back to Bill Belichick and some of the Vegas odds put out for the college football season. Robbie from Hoover says Belichick will join sorority as a house dad. Ugh. Vomit emoji. Molly liked that one.
I was about to say, now we need to know, was Jordan in a sorority in college? Because I would imagine that she was.
I think she was.
How was she not?
I looked it up before. I don't remember which one it was.
What's her last name? Belichick?
She would be the sample
Not yet,
composite
Conrad.
that the photography people that come and do all the composites for the fraternities and sororities, it feels like they would use her.
I'm pretty sure she was in one.
Okay, let's see. The wonders of the...
I would start throwing out like ones I would guess that she was in, but I don't need to do that.
Well, she went to a smaller college.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're like different.
Oh, did she go to a different...
schools.
Oh, yeah, she went to Bridgewater State.
Yes.
Oh, she was a cheerleader. That's right.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Remember, she wore her ring at like the NFL honors.
Oh, that's right.
And everyone
he
thought
had
it was
on...
a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah,
She was like, no, it's
he
my
had
own.
all his bling on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, maybe she wasn't in a sorority then. Maybe
She was at
busy cheering.
Bridgewater State. What's that enrollment?
Let's see. I'm going to be honest with you. Never heard of that one. It is in Bridgewater, Massachusetts. Not a surprise there. Let's see. Oh, they have a very high acceptance rate, Jordan. Come on now. Let's see. Enrollment, 11,200.
Okay.
Well, that was 10 years ago.
I was thinking
So it
more
might
like
have changed.
1,100, but yeah, 11,000. That's decent.
Okay, last year, 9,500.
Okay.
That's how many people.
Yeah.
It's a very nice looking campus.
I'm sure it's lovely.
I'm sure it's immaculate. I just want to know where they met. Did we ever find
That's
out
what I want to know.
where they met?
I want to know how they met.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways we could go with that one.
I don't need to because people take it the wrong way, and I don't mean it like that, but it would be a really funny line. These are just the things I filter through. Joe in Birmingham texts in and he says, how many times will they show Belichick's girlfriend on TV during the game? What's the over-under on that?
It's going to be like Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce all
I don't think
over
it'll be
again.
that much, though, because it's college, and for some reason,
I don't know.
I don't feel like that they'll publicize it as much as they did to Taylor.
I think she'll
And
get
plus, it was
shown.
Taylor Swift.
Well, yeah.
We're talking about Jordan, and we don't even know her last name.
Hudson.
There you go.
As I just now found out.
Smarty pants.
Well, I learned that
Jordan
a minute
Hudson.
ago. I didn't know that either, but yeah, it'll be interesting. Maybe she'll be on the sideline.
Do you think if they get married, she hyphenates the name, or does he take her name? Bill Hudson.
I think if I was her, I might just keep my own name and just.
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
We are getting ahead of ourselves.
We have a wedding to plan. We have so much to do. 5 questions from Molly. This is what we call Molly Marinades.
Molly Marinades. And as always, Molly Marinades is brought to you by Courtesy GMC in Trustful. All right, question number 1. So we were talking earlier about, how March Madness is one of the greatest time, like one of the best times of the year in sports. So I want you to rank like your top 3 postseasons. It can be any sport, like football, basketball, pro, college, your top 3 postseason. Because I'm with you, Conrad, what you said earlier. I would put like week 1 of college football up there, but I'm talking strictly postseason.
If we're just going postseason, I will go college football playoff, March Madness, and then third, I guess I will go. I'm torn. I want to say World Series, but also want to say College World Series.
Both very good options.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I wanted to say Women's College World Series.
That is
Yeah.
excellent.
But I'll say World Series, Major League Baseball.
Yeah,
Well, if my team's in it, though.
See, it depends.
Because it comes at the time of the year
it does.
where if it's not the Yankees on this show, if it's not the Cardinal, if it's not the Braves, not the Tigers.
Thank you.
We're all into football, and yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, the year that we won the World Series, we beat the Astros. That was fun, but that was different for me. I'm still paying attention. I'm just not dialed in. So it'd be unfair for me to say if it was let's just say the Royals and the Phillies this year,
Yeah.
then I'd be hanging on every pitch, every inning. I'm not
Yes.
going to be.
Yeah.
So I'll go with the College World Series,
I think
baseball and or softball.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I would go, my number one would be the NCAA tournament. And again, with the college football playoff, while, we're still kind of trying to get things figured out, I just think everything that goes into the NCAA tournament and the way that it's handled every year and having the bracket to go along with it and having that, like we were talking about earlier, like that community aspect with your friends or your family or your coworkers and all of it that goes into it.
Everybody asking you at the end of the day, how'd you do?
Absolutely. Yeah. I would go NCAA tournament number one. I would then go college football playoff, and we'll see how this thing gets ironed out over the next handful of years. But I think generally my disdain for the college football playoff at times has just come from the committee and some of the teams that we're getting. And I'm not even talking about this year in Alabama not getting in specifically, but just overall, I think there's been a lot of times that we disagree with that. And then I would go MLB postseason, just because I love that time of year for baseball. I think it's absolutely incredible. And in the October and potentially even early November atmosphere, if you get, a long World Series, I love that.
See, I would go March Madness number one, and then College World Series 2, and then probably the College Football Playoff number 3. The reason why I have College World Series at second, I'm a little biased because I've been to a few of them because I got to work.
Yeah.
Like the College World Series when I was in college. And I don't know if
Let's be honest, you hadn't been sniffing a college football playoff in a while as a Nebraska fan.
But I'm kind of with Conrad, though, a little bit, shaky when it comes to the committee. Not that it's not a great time of the year. It's just, as someone that's been to a few College World Series, if you ever get the chance to go, you need to. It is incredible.
And I think this is, you mentioned it with the Braves, obviously Molly with Nebraska, me with Alabama. If your team is in the playoffs, that elevates it to an entirely new level. But just if your team that you root for is not in it, that's kind of how I view how you would rank them if you don't have a rooting interest.
And to some degree with even the other ones, but college football, I'm going to watch a lot more even if I don't have a rooting interest, which I don't.
Yeah.
It's just what we do for a living.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
College basketball, the same thing. Is I'm going to watch that throughout the duration. Hopefully we have a local interest or somebody from the SEC that's still relevant. But I don't feel the same way about Major League Baseball if my Braves aren't in it.
No, I mean, that's fair. And I mean, for us, look, if I'm going to watch, BYU and Baylor at 10:30 on a Saturday night in the middle of September, I'm going to be fired up for the college football playoff. That's just how we are because we eat, live, and breathe that stuff.
All right, next question. So you have to pick today who is going to win the national championship in the big dance. You have to pick either an SEC team or the rest of the field. Where's your money going?
So we either have to pick an SEC team or take the field?
Yes.
I mean,
I'll pick an SEC team.
Okay.
I'll go Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, that's the
easy pick.
Yes, like if I were to have to put money on a team to win the national championship right now, it would be
Auburn. Okay.
That would be the team that I would pick.
I was just curious.
What about you?
I'd probably go Auburn too, but I didn't know if you guys thought differently, like a Duke or a Houston or.
Now, if this was a real bet and it was take the field or one SEC team, I'm taking the field.
Yeah, I'll take the field.
I'm taking the field on that opportunity because you get Duke, Houston,
right? You get more, yeah.
Iowa State, other teams like that. So it'd be difficult to put one team. But
they lost again last night.
Who?
Iowa State.
Oh yeah, they did. They did. They've had an interesting season, but yeah, I think if you're picking an SEC team right now, it'd be hard not to take Auburn.
All right, next question. This one has to do with the Final Four. So a couple years ago, we had your most stereotypical Final Four. I think it was Kansas, Duke, UNC, and Villanova, if I'm not mistaken. So I asked for this year, what would be your ideal Final Four? If you could handpick 4 teams, who would you want to see in the Final Four?
I think Auburn, Alabama, Florida, and give me Duke.
So 3 SEC teams and Duke.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I was going to go just to even the playing field. Alabama and Auburn, clearly, that would be awesome. I would go Duke as well, and then I would also throw Houston in there. And it would just be such an interesting...
See, I would throw Houston in mine,
It would be such an interesting dynamic because, all right, if you're Auburn, you beat in Houston and Alabama, you lost to Duke. If you're Alabama, you beat in Houston, you've either lost twice to Auburn or you split with them. You haven't played Duke. If you're Duke, you beat Auburn. Like there's just all of the different, you know, I guess all the different matchups we've had between those teams this year. It would be really cool just to say, hey, these are the 4 best teams, because I think when you are talking about teams playing their best basketball, I think those are the 4 best teams in college football or college basketball.
I agree.
Yeah.
And getting all 4 of those together, that would be very cool. And of course, if you could have it set up to Alabama and Auburn in the national championship, that'd be pretty killer.
All right, next question. This one has to do with Bill Belichick. So, if you missed the news, unfortunately, UNC and Bill, they opted out of filming Hard Knocks in the offseason.
Boo.
I know, which is terrible. And I know we're going to get like the SEC, I think it's on Netflix, where they're going to go in and film.
Yeah, their documentary. Yeah.
Right. So if
That
you
nobody wants to do.
That nobody wants to do, exactly. But now that Bill Belichick and UNC, they're not doing Hard Knocks, if you had to pick one college/football coach to be in this season's Hard Knocks, who would you want to see the most? Doesn't have to be in the SEC.
Dion would be fascinating.
I think that's a popular answer.
Yeah, Dion in Colorado would be good.
I think if you've listened to the show, you know I became a big fan of his this past season, especially. But Kenny Dillingham, I think Arizona State, that would be interesting.
That would be good.
That would be good. I'd say similar things for, you know, Lashley and SMU and just kind of the history of that program and getting it back to
By the way, Colorado
playoff.
does have a pool on their campus at their student act. Yep.
Okay.
So you can go and have a little lunch and get into your swimsuit.
See, personally,
Swim
because
on campus.
I'm interested, kind of Scott Frost going back to UCF, but that's probably just me.
But you'd be rooting against him and hoping for awful things
She
to
just
happen.
rolled her eyes like, I don't believe
Never.
her.
No, she wants UCF to go 0-12 this year.
Not true.
You definitely want him to go. And I don't blame you. I would be in the same boat that you are. But yeah, I mean, Dion at Colorado, that would be a good one. In terms of in the SEC, I mean, Lane's an easy option just because he's, you know, such an interesting character. I think Texas would be really interesting too, just with this offseason of Arch Manning becoming the starting quarterback. The program's now back. You made it back to, you know, back-to-back playoff appearances. You know, you're probably getting towards that national championship or bust window. So I think that would be a very interesting one as well.
Okay. Last question. So today is Ash Wednesday, which marks the beginning of Lent. And so I'm curious because I grew up going to Catholic school. Do you participate in Lent?
I don't. I did a fast.
Okay.
Prayer and fast through my church. It started January the 5th. So I guess that would be the equivalent
Okay.
of participating in Lent.
Yeah, I do not. I've grown up my whole life. I've been Southern Baptist, and I know there's still some people that observe Lent, but that was just not something that I was raised up doing through church. So I do not participate in Lent.
Okay. I was just curious.
Do you still participate in Lent?
I do.
What did you give up for Lent?
Um,
And if you don't want to share it, that's
no,
fine.
I will. I'm going to try to give up sweets. I have a really big sweet tooth,
Okay.
and that'll be hard because I'm about to be on a bachelorette trip, but
Well, nobody will be sweet on that trip. I can promise you.
all right.
This is your first one. There's going to be a lot of.
See, I heard when I was driving back from Tuscaloosa on Monday, and you were talking about the trip and how you said by the end of it, not everybody's going to get along.
Yeah.
And I truly hope that's not the case for you, Molly. But I can say in my experiences of going on bachelor trips,
100%.
like even with my buddies who we've known each other for, sometimes things just happen. And
Yeah, you're just not going to like somebody by the end of the weekend.
yeah.
Aw.
And I hope that's not the case. Hopefully y'all have a wonderful trip and that's wonderful. And hopefully girls are
Hopefully it's a grouchy fat girl.
better behaved than guys.
Sweet. Well,
What?
Well, yeah, though.
thanks for getting me really excited for my trip.
No, it's going to be
We're here for you.
Thank
it's
you.
going to be a great time. Like in my experience, I went on a trip where I had two of my friends literally fought. They got to the point where they physically had to fight each other.
Oh, no.
And after that happened, we were good.
So they had to hit each other in the face just to move on.
Basically.
Who won the fight? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do.
Have you gotten in a fight?
Not on a bachelor trip,
Oh,
no.
okay.
I haven't gotten in a fight since I was in like middle school.
Mm.
But yeah, no, it's It happens. Hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully we're wrong, but you never know.
Well,
And there's alcohol involved, and
well,
you
yeah.
know,
There's your problem.
tensions get high.
There's your problem.
Y'all
right
gonna be
there.
arguing about the SEC tournament, and you know you're gonna get really fired up. Someone's gonna bring up Nebraska, and
Now I'm gonna get all mad.
yeah, you know
Yep.
things just you know.
Yeah.
You're gonna have your little wine cooler.
Yeah.
You need to get the little frozen ones, you know, that you can get that are like in the pouches.
Mm-hmm.
Those are real good. You ever had those?
No, I don't. I don't do wine coolers.
No.
I hadn't had alcohol. Speaking of that, in 59 days.
I know.
That's good.
So I don't want it either.
But yeah, that's Molly marinades. Thanks, guys.
Those were excellent questions,
Thank
Molly.
Yeah, they were, Molly. Congratulations.
Sorry we ruined your trip.
No, it's okay. I'll just stay alert.
The whole time Molly's going to be like, everybody get along now. All right, everybody, let's smiles on our faces.
Oh, your text brings smiles to our faces. We'll do that next on Three Man Front. $12:53, three-man front. We get ready for basketball tonight, 6 o'clock, senior night, Coleman Coliseum, Alabama taking on the Florida Gators, number 7 versus number 5. We talked to Chris Stewart about that earlier in the program. We discussed it with you as well. 205-834-9450 on the text line. And Johnny chiming in, and he says that 2 Alabama seniors will not be honored tonight as they're both seeking medical red shirts. You got Reitzel, and you also have Millette.
Yep. That is accurate. But I did see where I think it was last week maybe where Nato said very confident that both of those guys are going to get the red shirt and be back for next year. But
yeah, he goes on to add it would be huge next season if their red shirts were granted. I agree.
Yeah, and as good as Alabama's been this year, I think, and Chris Stewart's brought it up a couple times, but I think we sometimes forget just how good Latrell Reitzel was for Alabama when he was healthy.
Steve from Tuscaloosa, for Lent, I'm giving up drinking and carbs.
There you go. That's good.
Yeah,
if you're
that's
a beer
good
drinker,
commitment.
you're knocking it out. Stay away from the pizza and the pasta.
Yep.
I will say, I think this was almost 3 or 4 years ago now. For Lent, I wanted to make my bed every day. Like, that was my thing. It didn't matter what I was doing, where I was going. I made my bed every day. And still to this day, I make my bed every single day.
That's great.
I have for 4 years.
I was about to say, what is it? Is it like, I forgot how many days it is. It's like 20 something days, I think, in a row to make something from,
It's 30 days to make a good one day to make a bad
to
one.
make a bad habit. Yeah.
I made our bed this morning because my wife, she had to go in early this morning, but I used to not make my bed every day, but she makes it religiously every day. And this day, just because of time, she couldn't do it. But now I feel incomplete if I leave the house and the bed's not made.
I have to make my bed every day.
Yep.
Because in high school, I was like hit or miss with it.
I mean,
Never
high school,
did
let's
it.
be honest.
Never did it in high school.
And then college, like my
reminded
freshman
me,
year.
you need to wash your sheets.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
But yeah, sophomore
High
year
school,
college.
you just didn't care. Just nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I make my bed every single day.
I was about to say, Paige makes ours most mornings, and if I get home and it's not made, I'm like, you know what? Probably need to make that bed.
Get in here, woman.
Sometimes Bucky makes it.
Wow. Just kidding. Dang, Conrad.
Oh, man.
I kid.
Does he watch games with you during football season?
No, he doesn't like how angry I get.
Give me some wings, boy. Oh. This one asks, what was the conversation like between Saban and Bill Belichick when the girlfriend age went public?
I am willing to bet they have never talked about that. Maybe in passing, but I don't think, there was ever a conversation of, all right, Bill, what's the deal here? I think that is just an unspoken thing. I mean, I think we all know the answer, right? I mean,
BB says for Lent, she's giving up Lent. No Lent for BB. Hope you had a wonderful birthday, BB.
Seemed like she had a good time. Seemed y'all had a lively crew up there yesterday.
Pat says for Lent, he's giving up cursing and text via acronyms like WTF and WTH and others. Good for you.
There you go.
That's good.
That's a good one.
This one rolls in. I haven't made my bed since I was in middle school. I didn't realize how common it was. When it's time to go to bed, I'm ready to hop in the sheets. But man, if you got some fresh sheets.
It's so nice.
Oh,
so nice.
You got the AC going. You just took a shower.
Oh, I thought you were going somewhere else.
Do that before the shower.
I'm more
Not
of a morning.
in the shower.
More of a morning guy.
Yeah, Conrad, nasty fella. 1 o'clock on this Wednesday, the start of Lent. Molly asked during Molly Marinates what we gave up for Lent, getting your thoughts. A lot of your texts coming in. If you would like to share what you are giving up for Lent, you can do that. 205-834-9450. Alabama hosting Florida tonight in basketball at 6 o'clock. That's the big story today here on the show. Last night, Auburn falls to Texas A&M in College Station. Also, baseball, talking about the strength of SEC right now in the early stages of the baseball season, but it's shaping up a lot like the start of the college basketball season when it came to the Southeastern Conference. Alabama's in action this afternoon as they take on number 19 Troy, 4 o'clock there at Sewell Thomas. But Auburn taking on a UAB team that is off to a good start. UAB and Coach Casey Dunn. They've won some big matchups up to this point. 5:30 this afternoon. You get that at Regions in downtown Birmingham. But looking at the top 25, and this is according to D1Baseball.com, LSU, your Tigers, are number 1. Tennessee is number 2 in the country. Arkansas, number 3. Georgia comes in at 5. Florida at 7. Texas at 12. Oklahoma at 13. Texas A&M at 14. How about those three right in a row? Ole Miss is at 17. Vanderbilt at 18. Auburn at 22. Alabama at 23.
That's not too shabby there. And just like kind of a side note, if anybody missed this last night, so Tennessee played Radford in baseball last night. They hit 3 grand slams in one game.
That's tough to do.
Tennessee's pretty good. They are pretty good yet again. But yeah, the SEC is very strong. Alabama undefeated on the season. Auburn with just the single loss. Alabama playing a top 25 Troy team tonight. Auburn taking on UAB. So 2 good matchups here.
Yeah, and in softball, not that you would expect anything less, but Oklahoma is on top at number 1. Texas at number 2. Florida is at number 3. Texas A&M at 4. LSU at 5. Tennessee is at 8. Arkansas at 10, along with South Carolina. Georgia 14, Auburn 17, Alabama 21, Mississippi State 22, Ole Miss comes in at 25. Not too shabby.
No, not too shabby at all. We're an everything conference, remember?
Fantasy sports has never been more fun. Download the Prize Picks app today. When you download the Prize Picks app, you're going to set up your account, fill out all your information, and then you're going to enter promo code WJOX. What is that going to do? Well, I'm going to tell you how to play if you've never played Prize Picks, but once you make your first $5 selection, whether you win or you lose, they're going to kick $50 back to your account instantly. But you have to enter promo code WJOX. Go to the Prize Picks app, download it, and you're going to get particular player matchups. We're going to keep it local here tonight. We played a couple of Auburn players last night, did not fare great in that one. Was correct on Janai Broom going for less than, I think it was 19 points last night, which he did. Unfortunately, we had Chaney Johnson going for more than the 11 points, and Chaney Johnson finished with 4 last night. So you got to win both of them. Tonight, how about this? I want to get you guys to give me advice. Aiden Holloway for Alabama, 12 points, more or less?
Better be more. I would go more.
Conrad's going more?
I like more. Yeah.
All right. Molly, you answer first. Walter Clayton Jr., guard for Florida. He averages 17 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
Does he score more or less than 18.5 points against Alabama tonight?
I'm going to go less.
You're going less there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going more on Aiden Holloway, less on Walter Clayton Jr. All right, that's my selection. That's my matchup for tonight. If I guess correctly on both of those, I'm going to get back whatever monetary amount I put in there. Prize Picks. Download the app today. Enter promo code WJOX. First $5 play, win or lose, you're going to get $50 instantly. Our friends at Prize Picks, we appreciate their partnership here on Jocks 94.5.
Yes, we absolutely do. There's also some news real quick we'll get to from the NFL. So a lot of things going on in the NFL circles today. So the big news that just came out moments ago was the Las Vegas Raiders. They have re-signed Max Crosby, one of the best defensive players in the entire NFL. They have signed him to a 3-year, $106.5 million extension. It makes him the highest paid non-quarterback in the history of the National Football League. Just doing a little bit of quick math there, it's a little over $35 million per year for the Raiders defensive end. So that's absolutely A massive payday for him.
When he comes home, are you asking what are you buying me?
Yeah. I think he's going to have some people asking.
No
for,
matter
a
your
handout or
relationship,
two
if
here.
you're just casually friends with this person,
Oh yeah,
I would have no shame in asking him for $1,000.
No,
not at all.
no, $1,000 for him. He's probably not worth his time to bend over and pick it up. We also have DK Metcalf, the star receiver from the Seattle Seahawks. He has officially requested a trade as of today. You do wonder if part of that is the news that the Seahawks also released Tyler Lockett, who's been a staple and a very, very good, very underrated wide receiver.
Can they just both go to the Raiders?
It's funny you mentioned that because Tyler Lockett already being connected to the Raiders, obviously with Pete Carroll going over there. He's very familiar with these two guys.
And we know DK and Pete Carroll.
Taking his shirt off when they drafted him.
Yeah, that's right.
Celebration.
Now, was he the guy that they played or he was crying on the phone with?
Yes.
That was DK.
Yeah, because they took a chance on him and he had fallen in that draft a little bit, and the Seahawks were the team that took him and were like, yeah, we didn't think you'd be available here, so we're happy to take you. And then you got the viral moment of him walking in with his shirt off for the interview, and Pete Carroll takes his shirt off.
Physical specimen.
Yeah.
Most impressive you've ever seen as a wide receiver?
He's right up there with Julio.
Or just impressive, period, no matter the position.
He's right up there with Julio and some of those guys just in terms of total freaks. But
DK's one of those hit or miss guys, though, when it comes to fantasy.
Yep. He's either going to go off and give you 20-plus points.
He's going to catch 3 long touchdowns, or he's going to have absolutely a 0 day.
That is pretty much how it goes for him, but he's certainly going to draw a lot of attention. You would imagine that they're going to be able to get a pretty nice return on a guy like DK Metcalf. He has 1 year left on his current contract, so that could come into play with trying to deal him. You also have the Kansas City Chiefs, who, if we remember the Super Bowl, offensive line was not great for them in the Super Bowl. So what do? They go and trade their best offensive lineman to the Chicago Bears. And Joe Thuney, who was an all-pro
Joe, it's going to be different there.
Yeah. He was an all-pro guard for the Chiefs. He got traded for the Bears for a 4th-round pick in 2026. So the Bears clearly trying to keep Caleb Williams upright there. The Chiefs looking to retool an offensive line that severely let them down in the biggest game of the year against the Eagles there in the Super Bowl. Let's see, a couple other notes. You also have Sam Hubbard, the Bengals defensive end, has had a spectacular career. Was a 3rd-round draft pick back in 2018, I believe. But he is announcing his retirement, actually, at the age of 29. So that's a bit of a shock there for the Bengals. And then you have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who a couple of years ago made, in my opinion, a very poor decision in signing Christian Kirk, the former Texas A&M wide receiver, to a big deal. He has not panned out. He gets released earlier today as well. You also had yesterday Sam Darnold not getting the franchise tag for the Minnesota Vikings, so he is now open to sign with other teams, and there will probably be a pretty interesting bidding war for Sam Darnold, a guy who definitely rebuilt his career this year in Minnesota. But you're kind of taking a gamble on a guy like that, so it'll be very interesting to see how
old is
that market
Darnold?
shakes out for him. He's probably like 24 still.
Yeah.
But he's pretty young.
I was about to say he's not very old. He is 27.
Okay.
So he's it's definitely not like Geno Smith, who took a little longer to kind of revitalize his career, but what Sam Darnold did this year was very impressive, and there'll be a lot of teams out there looking for him. And one of our Pat Ponders questions yesterday was Pat threw out some journeyman quarterbacks in the NFL and who we'd like to build our team around, and Gardner Minshew has now been made available. So
With his mustache.
So when we go and buy an NFL franchise, we can go and sign Gardner Minshew.
Absolutely.
It'll be great. And there's your
I
NFL
feel like
update.
I feel like Gardner Minshew, he could help you in a lot of different areas. Backup quarterback, starting quarterback if you need him.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Go and talk to a civic club or group. Appearances, he's probably not going to give you a whole lot of lip about having to go and sign posters at a mall.
Probably a great wingman when you're out celebrating at the bar after
no
the
doubt.
game. Definitely a great wingman.
Yep.
Might steal the girl though with the mustache,
With the mustache.
You're at risk of that, but
he's got a little bit of that eclectic look.
He's just it is so interesting to me with Gardner Minshew because you just go back a handful of years and this is a guy that we thought was going to transfer to Alabama to sit on the bench and learn under Nick Saban and start his coaching career. Instead, he decides to go to Washington State, has an absolutely sensational season, gets an opportunity in the NFL, actually got to be the Jaguars starting quarterback for a while early on in his career, and now has continued to float around. But just what a wild turnaround to go from, hey, time for me to start my coaching career. Let me transfer to this school so I can ride the pine, to being a starting quarterback in the NFL and now continuing to have a fairly productive career at the highest level.
More text coming in, 205-834-9450. And Steve from Tuscaloosa says, Belichick says to Saban, ever think about swapping out for a newer model? Saban says, what? Belichick says, yeah, a new Mercedes. What did you think I was talking about? Thank you, Steve.
That's good. That's good.
BB says, thanks to Don for putting together a great birthday party. It's Social Taco yesterday. I really enjoyed the crowd and the conversation. We'll be celebrating his birthday on the 25th, so mark your calendars. We certainly will.
Absolutely.
Appreciate one of our friends texting in. Here's another one. What they're giving up for Lent. I'm going to give up smoking, but start drinking.
Okay. Well, one vice for another.
You know, I celebrated 1 year of sobriety. I drank 12-pack. Roll Tide.
Why does it have to be an Alabama fan?
I don't know. It's Roll Tide is what it is.
Yeah.
It's just at the end. It's Roll Tide.
No, I mean, it makes sense. It's just.
Oh, dadgummit, I got a flat. Roll Tide.
That's not what I was saying on the side of 65.
Dadgummit. There's a washing machine out. Roll Tide. You can just use it with anything.
Oh yeah, it's a greeting.
It's like a
you can use it in any context and people will understand.
Yep.
It's a very versatile phrase.
Kind of like, well, amen.
Yeah,
a bit different.
That one's more important.
A lot more important. Josh is asking, I wonder what Matt Corral is up to, LOL. Shouldn't we know? Is Matt here? Is he in the stable?
Last I heard he was. Unless something changed, I believe he's still. Oh, I don't know if he's, physically here, but a part of
he's not here.
But a part of the Stallions. I would certainly think so.
Alan says there's nothing like playoff hockey, especially if you have a team competing. On favorite things to
Playoff
watch.
hockey is great.
I will say the few times that I have watched playoff hockey, I do enjoy it. And I've said this before. One of the most electric things in sports is the end of a professional or a playoff hockey game where one team's down and they pull the goalie out and they just send the house and they go, we have to score right here. Don't care what happens. We got to go full send. I love that. I wish we got stuff like that in other sports. Very electric.
James asking, did I see that right? Mac Jones got traded to the Tennessee Titans? If so, what does Damian think about it? I have no idea what Damian thinks about it.
I have not. I mean, is it any worse than Will Levis? But did he get traded? I have not seen.
Yeah, he signed a new deal or a deal with them.
Yeah, no, he has not been traded to the Titans. There seem to be some rumors that that's a potential option for the Titans, but no, he's
not official.
Not been traded to the Titans.
Is Jeff Driscoll still playing? Asked Drake.
That's a good question, Drake. He played for the. Was he on the Bengals last time? I feel like he was on the Bengals. Let's see. Is he still? He is. He is on the Washington Commanders. So I guess he's the third string guy behind Mariota and Jane Daniels.
Okay.
He's carved himself a nice little NFL career. He's been in the league for 9 years now. That's not bad.
Somebody sending me in the Alabama Roll Tide commercial. Thank you.
I was about to say, yeah, that was the first thing I thought of was the commercial. That was a great commercial.
That was a great commercial. All right, keep the text rolling in. What you giving up for Lent? Tim says saying Roll Tide is like saying bless their heart. People just know what you mean.
Yep.
WDE. Thank you, Tim.
See, that's an Auburn fan, and there you go. It's universal.
We see good, we see bad. Conrad typically sees bad stuff.
No Cheetos today.
Okay. That's fine. Can't wait. See what you got. The worst thing I've seen, it's next. 118. Another text. I'll bet anyone on the show that I can quit gambling for Lent. See what you did there. Don't do it.
Is that Pat texting in?
You know that's not Pat.
He wouldn't joke about that.
No, the only way you're going to get him to quit is if you'd have to incarcerate him. Solitary.
Probably so.
Just give him no access to.
He'd find a way to gamble on something.
There'd be a guy in his cell block that he would find that he would get to take bets.
Absolutely.
We see good, we see bad. Conrad has seen something bad. He's going to share it with us. This is the worst thing that I've seen. I don't often think of that young lady then when she did that. The girl that you just heard on The Voice that was enjoying a weekend of beaches and Jeeps.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
No, you just ever wonder, like, how is she doing? You think that
hopefully she's doing great.
You think she became a productive member of society? Not saying that she wasn't at that time, but that was around pandemic.
I thought you were.
That was pandemic.
I thought you were hinting at that we might have a new intro after Molly's bachelorette trip if anything goes viral from that crew, and then we can use that as a new intro.
That would definitely. How would one of those go?
I don't know. You can't top All Gravy, baby. I'm trying to think of like what a. I don't know. Maybe y'all could do it. Do your other friends do good Minnesota accents and stuff?
So slay.
Probably not.
It'd be
My
something.
Minnesota is the best Minnesota.
It is.
It really
is.
is.
It is very good.
You should talk like that all the time.
Okay.
It is very good. All right. Well,
It's like you enjoy a good quilt.
Well, I enjoy a good casserole.
Casserole. And a warm quilt.
Well, from Molly's great Minnesota accent to something very, very awful. So this is truly just an unfortunate story, but it's...
You always got to bring it down, don't you?
I do. Unfortunately, that is my job here at Jocks 94.5. But, I brought this up to Landrum. I asked him this in the break. It's, have you ever, and I'm going to assume Molly hasn't experienced this. I feel like this is a guy thing, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, she definitely has not experienced this.
But sometimes...
Wait, what is it?
Okay.
Have you...
If you and a buddy... you ever get to a point where you're like, hey, let's see who can, this is going
just
off the rails.
Just let him go.
Okay.
Just let him go.
But let's say you and a buddy and you
Very
decide,
wild job
hey,
setting it up.
who can punch each other the hardest?
No,
and you
never.
say, hey, I'll let you punch me as hard as you can, and you let me punch you as hard as I can. Now, that might be a middle school boys thing to do.
No, but you say that, but John Forney, former Alabama play-by-play radio broadcaster, right? Legendary voice. He grew up with my granddad, and they were good friends. They were middle school friends, high school friends. But they would all hang out, and he had a group of like 4 friends during the summertime, and they would use words that they shouldn't be using.
Okay.
And to try to break themselves of that during the summer when they're about to go back, every time somebody let one of those words,
they'd pop them?
Yeah. Everybody got a free shot on the arm.
Okay.
As hard as they could.
Just
There you
on
go.
the arm.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
to answer
yeah,
your
yeah.
question, Conrad, I've never done that in my life.
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not hitting each other in the face, but yeah, it's in the arm. All right, yeah. Give me let me see how hard you can hit me, and then I'll see how hard I can hit you, and then we'll go, which one of us can punch harder, right? All right, maybe that's just a weird thing that we experience, but I feel like that's something most guys do at one point in their life or another.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, there were 2 construction workers in Britain.
The other one that you do, it's not advised, but you put your 2 forearms together, your forearm next to his, and then somebody lights a burnt cigarette, and you put it in between and see who pulls away first.
I have not done that
is
one.
horrible.
That's like more prison fun.
Have you done that one?
Yes, unfortunately.
Did you win?
I did.
Well, there you go.
Hey, at least you won.
Unfortunately.
As long as you won.
Unfortunately.
But yeah, so to Britain we go, where unfortunately 2 construction workers, while drunk and on narcotics, decided that they were going to play a game of who could punch the hardest. So you have Jason Thomas, a 40-year-old, and Liam Morgan Whittle, who is 22 years old. And this was actually in Wales where this took place. But the 2 had been drinking and taking cocaine. So that's a good combination.
Okay. All right.
When they struck up a conversation questioning who they thought could punch harder than the other one. So before anybody knew
How
it,
long did they talk about it before they actually did it?
that's an excellent question.
Yeah.
But immediately during this conversation, Jason Thomas, the 40-year-old, decided that he was going to go ahead and try to get a quick lick in. He delivered 2 punches to Mr. Whittle, knocking him unconscious. And unfortunately, after that, paramedics had to arrive on the scene, and they determined that he had passed away
Oh man.
due to traumatic brain damage. He had been the punches caused him a brain bleed, and that ultimately led him to die. So you had 2 construction workers drunk on cocaine. Let's see who can punch each other the hardest. One guy says, I'm going to go first, knocks the dude out, first 2 punches, and unfortunately that led to his death.
I don't want to make light of it, but that's a lesson to you youngsters. Don't mess with a grown man.
Yes. And so this happened almost a year ago. This happened last April, I believe, or March. No, exactly a year ago. This happened last March. But now there have been charges that have been, sentenced against Mr. Thomas. And I thought this was bizarre. So he pled guilty to manslaughter and was sentenced this Monday to jail time. All right.
So that's already happened.
You said it's been a year?
You pled it out.
Yes. And now he got sentenced this Monday, 2 days ago. He got sentenced to jail. All right. Drunk and on drugs, you punch your buddy, knock him out and kill him. How much jail time you think you're getting for that?
I mean, you killed somebody. So
You did kill somebody.
Yeah.
probably getting a
It's
lot.
not intentional. You're probably getting 5 years.
I was gonna go like 10.
2.5 years.
Yeah, okay.
Really?
Yeah.
And I'm going to assume that part of it is being under the influence, and part of that blame is going to go on the victim, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I don't know how they do things over in Wells, but you also have to look at criminal history, intent in this case. That's just a horrible, horrible thing to happen.
So, according to authorities, the construction workers who had worked together previously on various construction sites got into the deadly game while they were at a friend's house in South Wales. There came a point in the evening where there was a discussion that got struck up about it was an aggressive argument, according to people that were there, about who could take a punch better. The friend that was hosting said, "I will hit you first." To which the victim then replied, "Go on then." He then delivered the 2 blows, and
See if that, well, I
that
don't know
was
legally if that happens. If he says go ahead, then this is tricky. This is not cut and dry.
According to Mr. Thomas, the person who was charged with manslaughter, his response was, quote, "He asked for it. I told him not to mess around." He claims that he never intended for the punch to actually hurt him, but unfortunately, that is
You
exactly
wanted to
what
hurt
happened.
him. You didn't want him to kill him.
Well, yes, because you want to win the competition, I would imagine. But yeah, just a horrible story of, this is why men die or have a shorter life expectancy than women.
I don't know how high or drunk they were, but you want to talk about sobering up real quick? You realize that you just killed your buddy?
Yeah, I would say that would turn the night around pretty quickly in a way that you weren't expecting.
So, Molly, I have an idea for you and your girlfriends. You do something like this weekend.
Okay. I will not be punching anybody.
I think that would
Will
be
you
a
let
good
somebody
game.
punch you?
Every
No.
time somebody in the group says you pop them.
Oh man.
Oh, no.
Landry, we'd all be dead.
I was about to say, just take a shot anytime.
We'd all be dead.
You'd all be dead.
What's the over under
That's
getting
really
set
good.
at by the word "like" being said this weekend on that bachelorette party?
40,000.
I was going to say over 1,000,
The
probably.
limit does not exist.
Over 1,000. I would say probably 1,000, maybe 2,000.
like maybe,
I don't know.
like-
I went in to the store and I don't know. It's like drives me crazy.
That's what it was like. If you remember the
Like-
worst thing I've seen from last week with the Ole Miss situation that was going on there, and some of the some of the text and details that were coming out of that story were from sorority girls at Ole Miss. And trying to read those messages, Molly, my brain almost exploded.
I remember one sentence was, he was really upset.
It was painful.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this just as a generality, but for at least in that circumstance, I think I lost brain cells reading that text message. But y'all are members. Y'all are more civilized than that, Molly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We got questions coming in on the text line, and I don't know. Drake says, not you, Molly, but have you guys ever played the game Thunder and Lightning?
Maybe. I don't know what it is. I've never heard of.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what it is either. I think I want to be Lightning, though.
I want to be Thunder.
I don't know. What does that mean?
I don't know.
I'll research it. I'll try to figure out what Thunder and Lightning is.
Yeah, tell us what it is.
Your text messages will continue with those. Wednesday edition of Three Man Front and Jocks 94.5. Festive Wednesday here on Three Man Front.
Excellent choice, Molly.
Spring baseball going on. Nick Castellanos to the Phillies, who every time something historic in this country happens, he has a big game. It's the top of the first inning between the Phillies and Molly's Tigers, and Castellanos is at the plate. So if he hits a home run here, that means that something
massive is going to happen.
Massive is going to happen.
World news.
It's uncanny. The track record of that guy.
It really is. It's gone past the point of, it started off as a fun little, it's just a
like
coincidence,
a joke,
but we'll have fun with it. And now it's been like 3 years and it's still happening.
Oh, got some good ideas for the bachelorette party coming up this weekend that Molly's heading to. 205-834-9450. Michael says Molly and the girls should have one of those slap-off competitions.
I don't think.
Oh, like the professional slappers where they put the powder on their hands and everything, and it's
slap the taste out of each other's mouth.
Have you seen where people will like put water in their mouth and then slap each other with tortillas.
Oh yeah. I've seen
See
that
who
on TikTok.
laughs the
Yeah,
first.
yeah.
It's really that's funny. I don't think we're gonna do that though.
But you never
If
know.
you do,
You never know.
If
You
you
never
do, will you
know.
please film it?
Of course.
Drake back on the Thunder and Lightning game. We got clarification.
Yes. What is this game?
Drake says it's a game people play. If you're Thunder, you get to punch who is Lightning as hard as you can, and if you're Lightning, you get to slap the person
Oh.
Thunder as hard as you can.
Never heard that one before. Never
I don't
played
think
that
I
one.
want to play that.
Would you rather punch someone or slap someone? I'd rather punch someone.
At this stage of my life, I'd try to avoid all, but
Well,
Yeah,
yes.
that's
if I'm going to go in, I'll go in with a fist.
Have you ever gotten in
Not
a
gonna-
Have
not
you ever
gonna mess
gotten in a
around.
fist fight before?
Yeah.
Like even when you're growing up?
really
Mm-hmm.
when?
High school.
Oh.
So I'd say I got in one in like 6th grade, 7th grade. It's the only time I've actually been in a fist fight.
College. Yeah.
Did you win?
Yeah. Felt like I did.
That's
There
all
you
that
go.
matters.
Nobody really wins in those, Conrad.
Well,
Yeah.
Take a seat, son. I'll tell you.
thanks,
Don't-
Paul.
Don't nobody win. Don't nobody win. Just remember that. Roll Tide.
Hey, as long as you stood up for yourself, you did the right thing, boy.
That's exactly right. What'd I tell you? There's going to be 2 hits. Me hitting you and you hitting the ground. Roll Tide.
Paige may not want me to share this, but she beat up a kid
She
when she
slapped
was
you?
no, there was a boy in her class when she was in like 5th grade that was
man.
picking on her and she beat him up.
If this
Absolute-
is
I
a
love
cry
that.
for help, blink. Those of you watching on Josh TV,
That was good.
she better not be mistreating you.
No, she's wonderful.
Now she's with old
We are still happily married.
Bucky McMillions.
We'll be in Tallahassee if that happens.
You just need to make sure you're taken care of.
Oh, well, obviously. Got to look out for me first. She's got somebody looking out for her.
You don't call
Who's
him
looking out
daddy,
for me?
but he takes care of things.
I hate that so much. Don't like that.
Oh, yeah. Molly and friends could use a flour tortilla for their slap off contest.
Yeah. I have seen that. It is funny when people do it.
What if that hurts? I mean, it probably doesn't feel good, but,
But
like,
it's really funny.
does it hurt that bad? It's just a tortilla.
Yeah, probably doesn't.
Going back to the worst thing that I've seen, Conrad shared a story about 2 guys from Wales, and they were drunk and high on cocaine. And apparently they decided that they would see who could hit the hardest, and one of them ended up dead.
Correct.
JJ makes a good point. I don't know why I always just assume that all of these statements we're getting in police interviews and interrogations are just accurate. Like, I'm not even thinking, what could this guy be? But JJ brings up a great point. It's solid. The dude made that story up. They got into a fight, and that was his cover story.
That's probably a very likely
Yeah.
scenario. I don't know. I do tend to trust people that are drunk on cocaine.
Yeah, but are you coming
They're
up with
very
that good
reliable.
of a cover story if you're drunk on and high on cocaine?
Well, that's what I want to see is the scramble afterwards of, if that is the case of everybody going, all right, let's get our story straight here. Let's
Right.
all make sure that we're,
We're on the
we're-
same page.
Yep. Wow, slurring your words and
Before we start my statement, can we go to the store? I need to get a couple more packs of cigarettes and a suitcase of beer.
seemed like they were having a big time until that.
Yes, they were.
If that's your kind of thing.
And the question coming in, does UAB basketball even make the NIT without a conference tournament championship? Question I have is the NIT still available?
It is.
Okay.
It is. I'm trying to see if we have because I'll be completely honest with you. I don't know if I've ever looked at a NIT bracketology before.
I think Rocco's got one.
I would think, yeah, he probably does. Let's see, UAB. Okay, so the one that I'm looking at right here would not have UAB in the NIT field. They would have North Texas.
Okay.
And that is it from the AAC.
Non-conference slate will not help UAB.
No, and they had a rocky start to the season, as we know, and they bounced back in a great way from that. But yeah, gotta win that conference tournament.
800-239 WJOX. Let's go to the phones. Familiar voice on the phone. Hey, Don.
Hey guys, how are y'all?
Good. How are you?
Good. I was going to talk about Auburn, but I've already talked to the guys this morning and then Cole and everything. But Molly, I forgot about you going. You're leaving tomorrow, right?
Yep, Don. I leave tomorrow, like afternoonish, probably.
Okay. Well, you remember the other day when I was talking to you, I told you about Riverwalk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I think Landrum can probably back me up on this because Landrum's been over there before. There's 3 great places.
I was highly
to go
intoxicated, so you don't probably want to ask me. It was
well,
30 years ago.
usually when you go to Savannah, you usually are. But okay, Molly, Wet Willie's,
Okay.
Frankie's, and Bootleggers.
All right. Perfect. We'll check them out.
Those are 3 great places and everything. But you gotta get your bachelorette outfit. You gotta wear a tiara and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure y'all have already got that prepared,
No,
right?
they don't.
Well, I'm sure the maid of honor has all that figured out.
Yeah. Now, are y'all going to take a van around? Y'all got like a limo or something?
I don't know. I don't think we have a limo.
Well,
Sounds like one of my
y'all need to
trips.
get one of those little party buses.
Yeah, I don't know if we're doing that. I don't really know the
Are you
plan.
going to foot the bill for the party bus, Don?
No, but you know what, though? I think your station, guys, I think y'all need a helper.
What are we helping her do?
Right, Molly? Right,
Yeah,
Molly? I need to give you
absolutely.
some money to
We
drink
try to
on.
give her advice, life advice.
Ryan gave her the time off to go on the trip. That was nice.
There you go. Well, do you guys remember last year when I called from Savannah?
Yep, you called from the golf course.
I did. But I'm telling you, that is such a fun town. And Molly, did you tell me you'd never been there before?
I've been before, but I was like 2 or 3, so I don't really remember.
Yeah.
Mine was at a fraternity formal.
Okay. I
So
bet that
you
was
can
fun.
imagine the debauchery that was going on there. Pretty sure I had my bow tie on and no shirt. Yep. By the end of the night. Actually, I'm positive.
Now, Landrum, didn't y'all do that on the riverboat?
No, we did not. We actually did it on the mainland.
Oh, riverboat gambling trip. That'd be fun.
There you go. Well, Molly, you know what? I forgot about that. They have a dinner cruise on that riverboat, and it is absolutely beautiful going up and down that river.
Very cool. I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, you have a good time and everything. And by the way, BB, thank you for the kind words, my dear, and everything. And when it gets closer, Landrum and you guys, she's gonna make me my mom used to make me a caramel cake every year for my birthday. So baby's gonna be a nice friend and make me one. And I need to tell y'all the story before that happens because it's a sad story, but means the world to me. And I'll tell y'all that one day. But thank you, baby. And yesterday was a great time.
Thank you, Don. You make it wonderful every single Tuesday.
I think another thing that's important for Molly going on the trip is you need to identify a mascot. That was something that went really well for on the trips that I've gone on. We had one of my friends bought I guess like a Halloween decoration, like a skeleton, just a skeleton. And we named him Barry Bones. And we carried him with us everywhere we go on the beach. He'd hang out on the beach with us. And we took him to the bars and stuff.
Yep.
And it's just it's a good little conversation starter because someone's inevitably going to ask about it. And then you find out we're here on a bachelorette trip. And the next thing you know, it's, well, let me buy y'all this. And then you're off and you're good to go.
It's good to know. Maybe we'll find something like that.
Just any inanimate object, give it a cute name and you're good to go.
Take your drink with you.
Yes.
Don't leave it there.
Yeah,
That's exactly right.
Definitely don't do
Keep
that.
it
You don't take any candy from strangers.
No, never.
We need to get in.
They have razor blades in the candy.
I wasn't thinking that, but yes, that too.
Isn't that the Halloween? Isn't that
Yeah, it's the razor
Yeah.
blades. Yeah, Mom. She's very careful about that stuff. Finally get to dig into our Halloween around Valentine's. When she had cleared it and had it all x-rayed. Sent back from Montgomery. We continue 3-man front and Jocks 94.5. Molly Robinson get all primed up for a bachelorette party weekend. She explores new horizons.
So Molly wants to be the Thunder, not the Lightning.
Is that the one that punches?
The Thunder punches, yes.
Yeah.
Lightning slaps.
No, yeah, I want to be Thunder.
205-834-9450. Text coming in on the text line. We'll continue to get to those. Going back to fights that people had back in their day.
Mm-hmm.
This one reads, broken nose that required surgery, and I won. Yeah,
okay,
nothing good really comes out of that.
No, but at least
Drake
you won.
asked the question, Mike Tyson in his prime, would you take a punch for 50,000? No.
For 50,000? No.
You
Seven figures.
There's not a number because you're going to die.
I best say no, absolutely not.
Mike Tyson in his prime?
Yeah, no.
Well, I guess it also depends. Like if he hits you in the arm, you're not going to die. Your arm might fall off, but
he could shatter your arm into many, many pieces.
Oh yeah, no, I know.
I wouldn't take it.
Yeah, I don't. No.
I mean, he
It'd have
hits
to be
you,
way
he
more
hits
than
you in the gut.
50,000.
Who was the guy that was a Sun man that took the cannonball to the gut? He would take the cannonball and then it finally.
Yeah.
Was it? Well, I think that. Was it? What's his name that did it? Houdini. Did Houdini take cannonballs to the gut?
Did Houdini get hit by a cannonball?
Yeah, just ask that.
Not what I thought I'd be Googling today. No, he was not.
Okay.
Apparently, there's a rumor that he got punched in the stomach and that caused him appendicitis, which is what killed him. But I don't
maybe
know
that's
if
why I
that's
was
true
just
or not.
tying those together. This one reads, will y'all have any bracket punishments for the person who finishes last in the office bracket pool? It's a good idea. We get Surstrom and we got to get that cleaned up before the tournament starts.
Or we could just pass that on to whoever
No.
loses the bracket.
No, I
Not
bought
how
it just
that
for you.
works.
I spent $50 on
We've
you.
had it since the Vanderbilt game.
I will give you $50 right now to not do it.
No.
No.
Oh, it's like that $50 is gone.
And it's still
You-
hiding somewhere. It's
But
like
it-
marinating even more.
It is.
I know. Thank you, Molly.
You're
Yeah.
welcome. I had to
Mhm.
remind you.
I know. Thank you.
Apparently, yes, they do have as you mentioned, NIT.
Yeah.
Bracketology, and UAB is not on it.
The good news, though, for Oklahoma is they are listed as a potential 1 seed in the NIT.
There you go.
So if you miss the tournament, that's something.
Thomas says, Coach Andy Kennedy said it on his last radio show. It would take winning the final 2 regular season games. That would be tomorrow night and coming up this weekend. And probably losing in the conference tournament finals, plus a team or 2 declining the invite to the NIT. So uphill climb.
That's the other thing is there are a lot of teams that will decline
If they don't win the
invitations.
tournament. Yes.
Yeah.
Alan says he didn't know Don was a travel agent. Yeah, he's got a lot of suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
Adam says, what is Don, an event planner now? Yeah, he is definitely an event planner.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
That's what Don does.
I mean, based on, the pictures and videos I saw of y'all up there yesterday, he did a very nice job decorating. I think he got there early, didn't he?
He was decorating the cake. He brought the pie in. He decorated. He had the candles working. And yeah, man.
He's a showman.
He is a showman. FSU Dave says, Molly, Savannah's a great town, but it can get a little dicey just a few blocks off of River Street. So please keep that in mind.
Okay, thank you.
You know where we went? So I was not of age.
Okay.
My date was not of age.
This was the fraternity formal?
Formal. My buddy was not of age, and his date was not of age.
Great.
We were in Texas, and Midnight in the Garden, Good and Evil, Lady Chablis.
Okay.
You never seen the movie?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, those of you at home follow along. Lady Chablis, she was the drag queen that sang in that particular club. We thought because we didn't have fake IDs and we were underage that maybe we could go in.
And they would serve you there?
Club, yes.
Yeah.
And it helped me and my buddy. We were wearing tuxedos. We looked really nice.
Obviously, yes.
The pictures that happened later, that was back in another. But yeah, we went in there with our dates and we had a good time. Got served illegally, but it was good.
I'm glad you had a good time.
No one got hurt.
Nobody fought.
That's good.
That's true. That is true.
So go in there if you get a chance, Molly.
Okay.
Get a T-shirt or something. Highly recommend Wet Willie's Call a Cab drink. Vinny Van Gogo's Pizza. Cash only, I think. These are recommendations for Savannah.
Wet Willie's. Call a cab. Let's see.
What is? Oh, it's like, is it lemonade something? Okay. Lemonade, vodka, a little bit of wine.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Is it like a Long Island iced tea where you put 7 different?
Yeah.
It looks
triple
like.
sec, you got some.
Looks like a lot.
Yeah, it does look
Says
like
it's
a
their
lot.
strongest drink in all caps.
Oh,
so-
well, there you go.
There you go.
Got to be fiscally responsible here.
Well, if it's called a cab, then
Yeah, you kind of know what you're getting yourself
Yeah.
into, I think. Yeah.
This text says, I want to be lightning. I can punch hard, but have you ever landed a clean, crisp, all you got slap on your sibling or friend's back? They can't breathe for like 3 months. Give me lightning all day.
It's very satisfying, like when you get a perfect high five with somebody and it has that sound to it, and you're like, that was a
Yeah.
good high five.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same
And
way.
you
that
both
slaps.
like stop and pause. Like, wow.
You're like,
We
wow.
just did that.
We did pretty good
Did
there.
Let's
you ever do
hold
the
this
thing
moment.
where it's like, look at my elbow, and you look at each other's elbows, and it's like the perfect high five. You guys never did that?
Oh, look at the elbow?
Yeah.
Yeah, it works
See,
every time.
It works every time.
Yep.
Try it. You gotta look at the elbow.
Why don't you just give somebody a high five?
Well, no, but if you look at the elbow while you give,
I don't
someone a
have
high
trouble
five-
connecting on high fives.
Okay.
He
well,
doesn't get it,
Landrum's a professional high fiver.
evidently.
I am.
Okay, I'm sure that served you
We,
well.
we can have a go right after the show. You
Mm.
get in your sportsmanship line. We'll go through. See how crisp I am.
Next time he gives someone a high five, he's definitely going to look at the elbow.
Yeah, you have to look at the elbow.
It's like the Kentucky thing on the map, how, holding the plate of chicken. Like once
Yeah.
you
Once you see it,
once you see it or hear it, you can't undo it.
And this is just to line it up.
yeah,
Okay.
you just look at the elbow.
It works 100%.
We
of the
played
time.
outside when I was a kid, and we high fived.
Yeah,
You could
We
learn
did
that
too.
from a video game,
I don't think I learned that.
I
from a
learned that
video
outside,
game.
too.
from your texting,
I don't think I learned that from that.
from you and your textes. Texting each other sitting across from an Applebee's
This
table.
is the part of the show where Landrum gets into the get off my lawn mood.
Yeah.
Reminds me, I got some buttermilk that's about to go bad.
You got some churning to do after the show?
I just like a little warm buttermilk and cornbread before bed. Most middle-aged men. Appreciate all the text today. Some we could not read. I could not read, but there's good reasons for that. But they were appreciated. I can let you know that.
So some cool news in the college basketball world here. This was announced a little while ago. So we know Janai Broom, him and Cooper Flagg battling it out for the National Player of the Year. But there is another award or a finalist list that has come out for the Julius Erving Award. That award is handed out to the top small forward in college basketball each and every year. There's 5 finalists right now. Cooper Flagg is one of them. You have Jackson Robinson from Kentucky as well. Ace Bailey from Rutgers, R.J. Lewis Jr. from St. John's, and then the final finalist is Chad Baker-Mazara from Auburn. So very cool that he's been recognized for his performance this year. I know that we've talked a lot about how some of his antics and things like that, but there's no mistaking that he's a very talented player and certainly has come up very, very big for Auburn at times this year and been one of their most consistent players. So very cool to see him getting recognized as a finalist on that list. Unfortunately, though, I would think any other list that you're on with Cooper Flagg, he's probably going to win that award. I could be wrong, but when you're a finalist for the National Player of the Year, I think that kind of, gives away who's going to win some of the other awards, unless they want to spread the love around. You never know.
And they could. I do feel like there's an inherent advantage, and there shouldn't be, but because he's got Duke across the front of his jersey.
Yeah,
That gives you the benefit of the doubt with some of the voters?
Yes, 100%.
Big
Which
game
it shouldn't
too.
be that way, but it is.
Big game coming up tonight. Alabama hosting Florida. Of course, we'll have the full conversation coming up tomorrow as we recap number 5 versus number 7 there in Tuscaloosa, the other games and the implications they could have not only for the SEC tournament coming up next week in Nashville, but also for the NCAA tournament as well. We continue to keep our eyes open because this time of year, you think about the college basketball calendar, and for schools that are looking for coaches, obviously they're not going to the tournament. So you start seeing some of the coaching carousel news heat up and some of the rumors and some of the smoke that's out there. In case you missed it, yesterday it was Jeff Goodman who let us know that Florida State and their current opening, whoever's going to replace Leonard Hamilton, longtime coach for the Seminoles, 6 names were given. One of them was Bucky McMillan of Samford. The other was Andy Kennedy of UAB. Hopefully we can keep those guys here in the 205.
Yeah, they've done absolutely fantastic jobs, and we would obviously hate to see them go. But anytime that you're getting mentioned in those kinds of circles, that means that you're doing a pretty great job at where you are currently, and wish nothing but the best for them. What is
Bama tonight versus Florida? Are they the Thunder or the Lightning?
They're the Lightning. Florida's going to come out and punch them, and they're going to smack them across the face.
Roll Tide. Paul Feinbaum is next here on Jocks 94.5.